Chapter 41 Follow the Yellow Brick. Pheromones. Full of glee, I head back towards the lake. My combat test run was a massive success. My newly upgraded acid worked better than I'd imagined, and the power of my bite attacks has skyrocketed. If I manage to get my mandibles to +5, I wonder what I'll be able to do then. I'm at risk of getting a little carried away with myself again. Head in the game, Anthony. Your new family isn't going to find itself. Once I arrive at the lake, I make my way around to the pheromone trail, my antennae tippy-tapping along the edge of the water. The usual collection of monsters has gathered again, eyeing each other off and getting a good drink of sweet mana juice. If I look at the water, it appears more agitated than it did before. The strange formations within the lake are moving more rapidly and intensely than before. I swear the lake is also brighter. Ever since I arrived in this world, things have been getting brighter. Is this a seasonal thing? Are we coming out of underground winter and moving into underground summer? Well, there's nothing I can think of to answer that mystery other than wait and see what happens. Excitedly, I pick up the trail and start following it away from the lake. It seems like the trail has become a little weaker over the last day or so, which means no ants have come through here and reinforced it for the last while. In some ways I'm glad, because it means that none of them have shown up here when I wasn't watching, which would have been depressing. Even if the chemical signal is a bit weaker than before, it's still strong enough to be fairly simple to follow into the forest. This feels a bit exciting now, moving into new, unexplored territory. The weird plant life in the forest continues to perplex me. I'm finding shorter trees in this area, probably only a few meters high but shaped like an inverted Christmas tree, wide at the top and narrow at the bottom. As I watch, the different levels of foliage appear to be swaying in the breeze, but each level sways in a different direction. Weird. I then realize there is no breeze. Out of curiosity, I flip a rock at the tree, and I swear the branches twitch to knock it away. Okay then, staying away from that tree in future. I have enough trouble with them more regular monsters. I don't feel any need to start tangling with the plants. By relying on my stealth, I'm able to avoid a few groups of monsters and stay on the trail as it winds through the forest. The trail doesn't follow a straight line but bends and curves, laid down in whatever path the first scout to come through here took as they wandered about. Suddenly a powerful roar explodes in the forest not far away from where I am. The heavy impact of monster combat rings in the air immediately afterwards. Yikes. Some monsters are getting serious over there. I decide to investigate whilst keeping my distance. I don't want to be dragged into what sounds like a battle of the big boys. Sure enough, when I creep close enough to see the action, two monsters I'm still unwilling to tangle with are laying right into each other. First is the Titan croc, possibly the same one from the lake, and second monster is the massive bat-faced gorilla-looking creature I'd seen before at the lake. Although this particular gorilla is significantly larger than that one was. He's absolutely huge. The Bat Gorilla King. The Titan croc has stood up on its hind legs, the smaller and thicker midsection arms looking slightly silly, waggling in the air, not able to do much. The croc is still huge when standing, easily 4 to 5 meters tall, matching the Bat Gorilla in height easily. This is a battle of the freaking giants, this is. I refuse to believe this massive things have evolved. Once, as I have. Surely this size is the result of at least 2, maybe 3 evolutions. How could it fare otherwise? Gandalf. The croc is much slower on its hind legs but is able to swing its massive claws in devastating, wide swings, raking the sword-like edges with tremendous force. The Bat Gorilla is far more nimble, ducking forward and back to avoid the swings, but it doesn't look nearly as solid defensively, the croc's thick hide nullifying its blows. Boom! In a fit of rage, the ape smashes both fists into the ground and roars with all of its colossal might, veins bulging under its skin. Electrical energy starts flashing, first around the shoulders and then streaming down the dark arms, faster and faster. Those massive fists start to glow with the accumulated energy until loud crackling sounds are emanating from both of the clenched hands. That looks awesome. The dreaded lightning fist. The incredible light show is dazzling. What on earth am I going to see next? The ape bellows once again and runs forward, massive fists crashing into the earth before leaping high, bringing both hands above its head for a massive 2-fist sledgehammer attack. The Titan croc stands its ground, coldly watching the ape approach before crouching, titanic energy amassing in its chest to be released from between those dreadful jaws in the form of a searing ball of fire. With a shattering explosion, the ape tanks the fireball with its leathery bat face before the sheer momentum carries it forward, bringing both fists down with the strength of a lightning bolt, discharging the rippling lightning through the body of the croc. Both combatants stagger back after this incredible exchange, and I remember to start breathing again. Holy moly! That was hella impressive. At what point am I going to be able to do totally sweet moves like that Gandalf? Launching fireballs out of the mouth? Channeling lightning into the fists? Maybe after my next evolution? The two monsters eye each other with baleful glares. These two seem to seriously hate each other's guts. Something tells me these two may have fought before. After the last exchange, the damage to both monsters seems to be equal and they continue their standoff, chests heaving. Some might think I would take advantage of this moment to pounce on the injured monsters, peppering them with acid to take advantage of their weakened state and reap a fortune in experience and biomass. To those I would say, you must be out of your mind. I am not going anywhere near these guys. Are you even seeing this? Wait a second. What is that? My eyes detect a flicker of movement on the other side of the titanic clash and I desperately turn my head to try and confirm what it was I saw. I swear I just saw antennae. There it is again. What I see next causes my heart to leap with joy. First one, then another, then 10 more ants emerge from the trees, antennae furiously waving this way and that as they move around each other. My people. My tribe. My clan. I can tell from their coloring that these are definitely Formica ants. Just like me. I have found the colony at last. Each of the ants is roughly my size, though most are slightly smaller. I can also see a few hatchlings, just like I used to be, mixed in with them. Must be a group out of the colony to visit the lake, absorbing the mana to try and condense their mana cores. Good you guys. Give it all for the colony. What I see next causes my heart to sink into a pit of despair. The ants skitter back and forth for a moment, before as one, they raise their abdomens high and begin to blast the two massive combatants with acid. You did what? Chapter 42. My family needs more education. I can't believe my hundreds of tiny eyes. What are the heck are you guys doing? Sure, there are more than 10 of you, but those guys are freaking massive. The Titan croc by itself could snap all of you up at 2 minutes. Before I can even think, my feet are moving. I don't understand exactly why, but I cannot let these ants get killed. Not now, not after I've been searching for so long. I will not them die today. Before the two massive monsters can react properly to the new threat, I have charged forward, out of my cover and into the open. Digging in my feet, I spin quickly to point my back at the two creatures. Let me introduce you monsters to what is affectionately known as my business district. Pow! 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 I fire off 3 quick shots without aiming too much. All I want is the beasts to turn their attention to me, hopefully that way my colony mates won't be instantly crushed to pieces. The 3 sizzling jets of acid streak through the air, impacting on the 2 massive beasts and immediately adhering to them, burning into their flesh. Thankfully these guys are so large I don't have to aim too much in order to hit them, but it would have better if I had been able to target my restrictive acid more carefully. Hitting their joints would have reduced their ability to fight even if only a little. My gambit pays off enough though. The 2 huge beasts turn their back on the approaching ant force and face this new threat with primeval fury burning in their eyes. Oh. Hey guys. Any chance you two are pacifists? These 2 monsters look like the absolute alphas of this place. I still remember how the Titan croc smashed an adult centipede into bits with a single swipe of its claws. Why on Pangera did my ant brethren decide to take on these things? I seriously hope my ant brothers and sisters are not also suffering from an immensely low cunning stat, because I deeply question the wisdom of this current course of action. Pow! Pow! Improved acid shot has reached level 4. Before they can charge at me, I fire off 2 more quick shots, both aimed at the ape. Hopefully the extra acid will restrict its movement somewhat since it is by far the faster of the 2. Practically all of my ranged ammunition has been expended now. I have only 1 shot remaining. Acid is a damage over time sort of effect, however, hopefully we can all survive long enough to see the effects start to kick in. My fellow antkind are still bombarding with their acid, Firing spray after spray. I seriously don't want them to draw the aggro, so I'm going to have to do something I'll quickly regret. I charge. Witness me. With the two brooding monstrosities looming over me, I dash forward directly toward them. These two giants are seriously ticked off, drenched in stinging acid, some of it hardening and sticking to them. They are ready to pound these offending insects into a paste. When they see me running at them, they both react aggressively. The ape responds first, its superior reflexes and speed on full display as it dashes forward to meet my charge. The ground thunders in response to the sheer bulk of the creature as its fists pound into the rock. With its leathery bat face growing larger and larger in my vision, I can really see with far more detail than I'd like the massive curved fangs protruding from the monster's maw. Suddenly the ape gathers its strength and leaps high into the air. I've seen this before. With every ounce of strength in my body, I hurl myself to the side just as those massive fists impact, shattering the ground with the sheer kinetic force of the strike. Every ounce of my being is shivering after witnessing that force up close. Even the spray of rock and dirt from the impact is almost enough to damage me. Just how strong are you, damn ape? Just as I am congratulating myself for my narrow escape, I can see something flaring up in my peripheral vision. Is that jump? Springing out with all of the energy I can pump into my legs, I feel a searing heat begin burn into me before a catastrophic explosion rocks the ground just beneath my feet. That damned croc launched a fireball at me when I dodged the ape. Since when is your teamwork so good? Are you the new Colossal Brothers duo? That one nearly cooked me. If I'd been 1 second slower, I'd be roast ant at this point. Even though I was able to dodge, I've still taken some damage and one of my legs is fairly wrecked. It was closest to the ground when the explosion went off. I curse my bad luck. I can't afford to lose mobility. I don't have much choice. I activate my regenerative healing gland. Immediately an icy sensation explodes deep with my body before creeping down my veins and spreading throughout my entire frame. Yeesh. That feels so weird. Almost as if my guts had been put in a deep freeze. This must be the healing fluid I'd read about. In the span of a few seconds, the freezing, numb sensation has swept through me entirely, and as it recedes, I can tell I feel better than I did before. Dings in my carapace have started closing over and my leg is almost back to full function after being a roasted entree just a minute ago. Checking my status, I can see that I've regained 5 HP from what I had before. It was a shame to have to blow it so early in the fight, but the regenerative properties of this new organ are impressive. I'm very satisfied with this purchase. All said and done, I've only managed to buy about 30 seconds so far. I hope that acid is doing some work, otherwise we're all dead. The two gigantic monsters almost seem surprised to see their much smaller opponent still alive after their combined assault. I suppose these guys don't usually have much trouble hunting in this place. I haven't seen anything else that remotely approaches their strength. My fellow ants are still firing acid from above, but some of them are starting to descend to enter into melee combat. Are you guys freaking serious? You'll be torn to shreds. Seeing several of the ants approach, the two monsters turn to face them. I can't let that happen. My leg is as good as it's going to get. Go 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 go. With my two enemies distracted and facing away, I charge with all of my speed. Damn it, I should have taken that dash skill ages ago. I need to be faster. Running up behind the ape, I spring high with all of my legs, mandibles glowing brilliantly white. Crushing bite. My mandibles close on the wrist of the ape with audible crunch. If I can disable his hand, it will be a huge reduction to its ability to fight. The beast reacts with incredible swiftness, rapidly swinging its arm and flinging me off into the air. Fortunately, I've had some practice with this lately. Tuck the legs and roll. As I hit the ground, I land onto my back, the hard carapace absorbing the impact, and then I roll over and over, dispersing the impact and protecting my vulnerable legs. When I slow down, I get back onto my feet and charge straight back into the fight. I can't afford to let up for a second. A few of my allies have reached the fight now, rushing forward suicidally to bite and latch onto the gigantic creatures, heedless of their own lives. You idiots! The Titan croc draws back one of its enormous hands, preparing to swipe down with its fierce claws. Damn it! Chapter 43 Blood is thicker than Aishur. New. Desperate to save my allies, I turn on the spot and pray I have something still left in the tank. Pow! Once again the sizzling acid streaks through the air. By some miracle my hastily aimed shot is right on the money, splashing into the Titan Croc's face, and then immediately begins to show its restrictive properties, turning sticky as it solidifies in an instant. The Croc bellows in rage as it swings out with its prepared claw, but thanks to its vision being impeded, the swing goes slightly wide. One ant is still caught directly in its midsection and is instantly killed, torn to pieces by those terrible claws. The survivors close in and start chomping at the Croc's legs, some of them even climbing up the monster's body to attack other places. Why did I never think of that? The two massive monsters are still fighting fit, however, and I can't be everywhere at once. I've done everything I can for the ants taking on the Croc. I have to hope that they can survive on their own for a while. All I can hope to do is take this ape out of the fight. My bite seems to have had some effect on the monster. Its hideous bat features are twisted in rage and pain. Its dark fur, now almost completely matted with burning acid, is slowly being stripped away, and the creature is carrying its right wrist, not willing to place its full weight on the limb. This is my chance. I run at the ape, posturing and snapping my mandibles, the monster equivalent of shouting 1v1 me bro. The creature screams, different from before. This high-pitched shriek seems to wobble my insides and penetrate my mind, dizzying me and everyone else in range. This feels like some crazy echolation attack. The sound waves are so strong I can feel my whole body vibrating. After releasing this insane stunning effect, the monster once again leaps high, looking to squash me flat whilst I suffer from the effect of the scream. But it's not enough. Before he can land, I leap once more, this time in a direction he couldn't expect, directly onto his body. Grip skill can also be used like this monkey brain. As the ape comes down with shattering force, I leap straight at him, clutching onto his upper leg with all of the strength my tiny claws can muster. With my newly improved might stat, it's just enough to hold when the monster crashes to the ground. Thankfully I didn't neglect to toughen up my inner resistance when I raised my toughness, otherwise I might not have been able to resist the effect as well as I did. If I hadn't shaken off that stun, I'd be ant paste right now. Hopefully the other ants were able to manage okay. I don't have time to check on them. Don't waste any time, bite. I can feel the energy mounting in my mandibles as they glow brighter and brighter before I bring them closed with tremendous force. Crushing bite. Crushing bite has reached level 3. The ape shrieks in pain and immediately starts slapping at itself to try and squash me or knock me off, much like a human dealing with a mosquito, but I'm already gone. Crawling around on the creature's other leg, preparing to deal another bite. Chomp. How do you like that? Not very much apparently, as the monster has intensified its efforts to shake me off, but I won't go. I'm holding on with everything I can muster. Grip has reached level 5, upgrade available. Perfect. Grip minus enhanced grip. Your feet become more resistant to effects that will limit their ability to grip, such as water, momentum. I'll take it. My claws into the ape's furry skin even tighter as I skitter around on his body, trying to avoid the deadly slaps of his meaty hands. Eventually I clamber up to his neck, and before he can react I dig in for a massive bite. Chomp has reached level 4. So many levels. This is probably the effect of battling such a large monster. The massive monster shrieks once again in pain and hunches its shoulders against my mandibles. Then I feel something strange building up on the ape. My feet are almost tingling. Wait a sec. Jump. Zap. The tremendous electrical discharge flashes all over the ape's body, crackling loudly and blinding my eyes briefly. Holy hell. He turned himself into an electric bug zapper. Arg. He fried 2 of my legs. That seriously hurts. I won't stop though, this bat gorilla is going to get it. Thanks to my amazing peripheral vision I can sort of make out what is happening with the Croc. I think he's been pulled to the ground for the moment. Reinforcements might have come, judging by the number of moving shapes I can see. I can't let myself be distracted though. If the 2 massive creatures were to join forces, we'd all be toasted in sex. By this point the bat-faced monster is seriously suffering. Drenched in burning acid, he has very visible burns and wounds that must be excruciating. It should also be mentioned that the ape isn't a bug-type monster, shielded by a hard carapace, or even like the lizards or crocs, protected by a layer of scales. This ape has dense fur for protection, but under that is skin and muscle. My crushing bites have been able to inflict significant damage. He must be teetering on the edge by now, he must be. The ants here are my relatives, born from the same queen as me, my brothers and sisters. I never had much of a family on Earth, rarely saw my parents, and I had no siblings to speak of. Perhaps that is the reason why I want to protect these monsters. Maybe I'm just silly, but I don't want my idiot ant siblings to die. Which means it's you and me, ape. Only one of us is walking out of here alive. Red foam is dripping from the gaping maw of the wounded beast, mad fury burning in its eyes. You've got no chill, ape, that's your problem. My legs are still a bit shaky, that electricity zapped me fairly well. I don't think my regeneration gland has anything left in the tank. If I survive this fight, I'm going to upgrade the heck out of that thing. Still no acid either, going to have to finish it with the mandibles. Steadying my feet beneath me, I begin to move towards the ape, circling around to side of its injured hand. The next move will decide the battle. I watch the monster like a hawk as it glares back, almost mad with pain and rage. Come on, you big dumb bat-faced piece of biomass. You've got a face not even your mother could love, come over here and let me tear it off. Suddenly my injured legs give way beneath me and I stumble, my poor face crashing in the dirt. The ape howls in glee and dashes forward maniacally. You really are stupid. Just as it reaches me, looming over with its massive frame, both arms raised for the final strike, I propel myself with my legs and roll directly under it, dodging the deadly blow by inches. Now, I spring up next to the creature's legs and charge up my mandibles for a massive strike. Chomp. Just beneath the creature's knee I rip into his leg, the crushing bite audibly crunching the muscle and bone as the chomp passive helps my jaws puncture through the defenses. The ape howls in pain and swats at me awkwardly, landing a glancing blow on my abdomen, but I'm not letting go. Bite. 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 Slowly at first, my jaws begin to close further and further before they finally snap shut with a massive snap. I've bitten clean through the leg. My foe totters before completely losing its balance and falling to the ground with a crash. As it does so, it lashing out with its injured hand, crashing a fist down directly on top of my midsection. My vision instantly blurs as the impact rattles through my entire body. Even off balance and with an injured hand, this monster is still so damn strong. I can feel my carapace crack in places as it absorbs the impact. I hold on to consciousness desperately, I won't die now. I still can't see clearly, but I throw myself forward, hopefully at the monster's head. All you have to do is bite, Anthony. Don't think of anything else, just bite. Chomp. Chomp. I can feel my body being rocked by blows and my eyes get darker and darker, but still I hold on. Chomp. Chomp. I'm not even sure where I am anymore. Not even sure what I'm doing. For some reason though, I know I just have to keep biting. Chomp. You have slain level 13. Black. Wrong, Commander. He turned and nodded towards the forest below them. I don't think I've ever seen the forest look this bright. Spawn points are spitting out monsters almost as fast as we kill them, and the wave still hasn't broken. It doesn't feel like it usually does. Aurelia reluctantly agreed. It does seem to be building in intensity faster than usual. What do you think it means? Titus shook his head. I'm not sure. I just know I don't like it. This wave is going to be a big one. We'd best be prepared for the worst. Chapter 45. My mother is a giant monster. I can feel something under my head. It's solid, like a rock. My legs are so heavy as well. How long have I been asleep? I try to stretch my arms out and can't for some reason. Where the heck are my arms? Wait. I don't have arms anymore. Then it all comes flooding back. The fight, the ants, the ape. What the heck happened? Am I alive? I try to spring up to my feet, but a solid force is holding me down. What the heck? Am I still under attack? My vision swings wildly before finally settling, and I can see an enormous monster above me, pressing me down with one large leg. Wah! What is this thing? Don't eat me. I'm not delicious. It takes a moment for my head to settle down. I haven't been harmed, I don't think. The force on my back is pressing me down but not harming me in any way. I quickly check my status. I'm at about half HP. I remember being next to dead. Where did these levels come from? I've gained 3 whole levels. Is this from the bat gorilla? I don't really remember how that fight ended. And as I look closer as this massive monster above me. Isn't it an ant? Like a massive ant. Hang on a second. The queen. A truly enormous monstrous ant, easily 4 times my size, is standing over me, pressing me down to the ground and watching me as I wake up. Slowly she leans forward and her antennae begin to glow brightly. When those antennae touch mine, I can feel a surge of icy energy sweep through my body. I'm shocked at first, but then it reminds of something, my regeneration gland. Is she healing me? Checking my status, I can see that I've gained another 10 HP. This is a bit of a surprise. The queen knows healing magic? Suddenly the pressure from my back is gone and I can stand up. The queen turns away from me to pick something up in her mandibles and turns back, dropping a huge chunk of monster in front of me. I think this is the ape's arm. After dropping off some food for me, the massive queen chirps in a friendly manner before turning and wandering off around a corner, leaving me in a small dirt chamber on my own. Okay, Anthony, let's cool down and think about this. Growl. My stomach is seriously rumbling. Why the heck am I so hungry? Let's think as we eat then. You have consumed a new source of biomass, Pugnus vulgar simii. You are awarded 1 biomass. Basic profile of the Pugnus vulgar simii unlocked. Pugnus vulgar simii, lightning fist ape, brutally powerful but severely lacking in cunning. This monster has a strong affinity to lightning and can channel mana into electricity. Not wrong about those electrical attacks, yeesh. Quite the formidable monster, but I do have to agree, it was very stupid. I would hate to run into a monster that powerful with some semblance of smarts. Unable to trick it, I'd be quickly defeated. You have gained 1 biomass. You have gained 1 biomass. 2 whole biomass just from eating 1 arm? That is unheard of. Is it because it's an advanced creature of some kind? Possibly I was right and it was double mutated, so it provides more biomass. It certainly gave me a heap of XP, enough to level 3 times even after I evolved. Although the pain of hunting them is real, the benefits cannot be denied. If I was able to get a whole one to myself. Whoa, snap out of it, Anthony, you almost died fighting this one. No need to go planning to throw your life away already. So, how did I end up here anyway? And where exactly is here? Since the queen is here, then that can mean only one thing. I'm in the nest. Since I passed out when battling, my allies must have dragged me back here to be healed when they brought the food back also, which means the Titan Croc should have also bit the dust. Go team. I'm not sure how I feel. I've been through a lot and risked my life multiple times to try and get back to the nest of my colony. Almost everything I've seen since I awoke in this place has been trying to kill me. I just wanted to be somewhere I wouldn't have to be so cautious, so afraid. Now I'm here. I'm pumped up to check it out. Just as I'm about to rush out of the small dirt chamber, I notice something else glowing softly on the ground. What is this? A monster core. As far as cores go, this one is massive. Easily the biggest I've seen. I move closer. Compatible monster core detected. Would you like to reinforce your core or reconstitute a monster? Is this the core of the ape? Did the colony leave it here for me? That seems a little odd for a group of monstrous ants to do. Was it the queen? She does seem a little smarter than the others. Did she leave this here for me as a reward? You know, I've wondered what the reconstitute a monster option does. Reinforcing my core is hugely important since it will allow to increase my ability further when I evolve, but I really would like to know what the heck this option does. Maybe I can just check it out without consuming the core. Would you like to reconstitute the monster? Sure. Manual reconstitution is locked since requisite skills have not been acquired. Reconstituting monster. Wait. No. Before my eyes, the precious core begins to glow brighter and brighter before it melts into a bright liquid that gradually reshapes itself. When the process is finished and the light recedes, a small monkey-looking creature is sitting on the ground looking up at me with its large eyes. What the heck is this? The little simian has dark gray skin and tiny bat-like features as well as soft black fur growing all over its body. As I stare, the small chimp starts to look curiously around the room, eventually standing up and slowly waddling around with an awkward gait as if it hadn't quite worked out how to walk. So my precious ape core is gone, and reconstituting the monster literally brings it back to life as an infant. What is the point of that? I could have used that core to reinforce my own, possibly getting some sort of bonus since it was such a large one. I'm lamenting, seriously lamenting here, Gandalf. Ignorant to my pain, the chimp is still waddling about, scratching at the walls before it eventually walks over to me. What do you want, chimp? Wah hey. After hesitating for the moment, the tiny monster smiles and clumsily starts to clamber up my abdomen, eventually succeeding and happily sitting on my back, hooting to itself in delight. It looks so cheerful up there, I decide to leave it alone. It isn't like he can do much harm. Perhaps he has some sort of loyalty to me since I reconstituted him. Gandalf didn't have much to say on the matter. Although I can apparently learn skills to make the process manual. What does that entail? The more I learn about this crazy system, the stranger it seems to me. With my new passenger on board, I decide to go and explore the nest of my colony. Hopefully the other ants won't eat him. Walking out of the small dirt chamber, I enter a narrow tunnel that winds around some rock protrusions before joining up to another slightly larger tunnel. A few ants are making their way back and forth, moving up and down the tunnel, looking super busy. At first I react with shock. Seeing a monster up close usually means a fight is about to happen, but these ants completely ignore me, hurrying about their business. It looks like they are able to recognize that I'm the same species and from the same colony as them. It's kind of strange to think that his is my first chance to see what I myself look like. These ants really are just very large wood ants. Normally wood ants would create a large mound rather than digging into the dirt, but I suppose their options are limited down here in these tunnels. Maybe they could make a mound in the huge cavern I was in before? About half of the ants I see are still hatchlings, significantly smaller than I am, looking almost adorable as they rush past, their 6 legs almost a blur. It seems safe, thankfully. Time to keep exploring. I decide to head down and I see 2 more chambers, connected to this main tunnel by narrow paths. For whatever reason, these chambers are mostly empty, just a few workers resting in them. Further down, however, the action is really happening. Chapter 46: The Colony. Further down, my ape passenger, who is managing to hold on to my back very well, and I come across many more ants, and it quickly becomes apparent why. Dozens of small grubs and several larger cocoons occupy the space, carefully tended to and fed by more than 20 workers. The workers are constantly checking and tending to the white grubs, cleaning them and feeding them from their social stomachs, similar to the way a bird will regurgitate food for its young. This is the brood chamber. The next generation of ant monsters are being raised here. This is super cool to see. One of my favorite parts of my ant-keeping hobby was watching the workers raise up the future workers of the colony, taking care of them until they were fully grown. It seems that these monstrous ants follow a similar life cycle to regular ants on Earth. First, the queen lays the eggs, which hatch into a larva, a small grub that needs to be fed and cared for until it becomes large enough to spin itself a cocoon and become a pupa. Inside the cocoon, the ant slowly takes shape until eventually it emerges, fully formed. After a brief period to allow for the exoskeleton to harden, the new ant is ready to roll. The ape on my back is making low noises of amazement as it watched the hustle and bustle in the chamber in front of us. There really is a lot of movement. These monstrous workers don't take their feet off the pedal for a moment. If I look closely, I can see a few unhatched eggs in the corner of the chamber. I guess that means that further down from here I'll find the queen. Sure enough, in the chamber down below, Her Highness is back to her usual work. Dwarfing all of the workers in the chamber, the queen is being tended to constantly by her entourage, bringing her food and cleaning her so that she can concentrate on laying and growing the colony. Honestly, I'm surprised to see so few ants so far. I don't think this colony is very old. A wood ant nest can have up to 500,000 workers in it. I don't think this one has more than a few hundred. My antennae are constantly pinging in here, flooded with the scent of pheromone trails. Instinctively, I'm able to understand what some of them mean: food over this way, brood are to go this way, and so on. The trails are laid out so that workers know where they need to be going at any time. The more workers agree on a particular path, the stronger that trail will become. The queen has seen me looking around and walks towards me. Several ants crawling on her are forced to come along as well. I'm still slightly intimidated by the queen. She is seriously massive. Oh. Hi. Mom. The massive monster in front of me is technically my mother here in this world. The fact that I'm here in the colony and not getting ripped to pieces is all the proof I could need. The queen, that is to say, mother, inspects me carefully, checking if I'm still wounded before giving me friendly pat on the antennae and moving back into the nesting chamber. Well, she seems nice. Speaking of which, I should check my HP. Looks like I'm up to about 41 since eating that biomass. Nearly back to full, feels good. Now that I'm finally here, I'm not exactly sure what to do next. I don't have anything urgent that needs doing, and thankfully I'm not threatened by anything right now. No humans chasing me down, no enemy monsters. Such a relaxing existence. I move out of the nesting chambers and out of the workers' way, heading up the tunnel and into one of the empty side rooms. On the way I pass two workers carrying a weakly struggling live centipede down towards the area we just left. Why would they leave it alive? I think for a moment before I eventually realize why. In order to level up, you have to deal the final blow. They are literally delivering XP to Mother. She doesn't have to lift a finger in order to get experience and biomass. The workers are just bringing it on their own. What an enviable existence. It makes a lot of sense when I think about it. The queen in an ant colony is literally the heart, the past, and the future of the colony. Without the queen, the colony would never have existed, and if she were to die, the colony would cease to be. So it makes sense that to keep everything growing and prosperous, the queen should be as high a level as possible, as well as gaining biomass in order to mutate and become stronger. She probably has an egg production organ she can upgrade as well, increasing the rate she can lay and growing the workforce faster and faster. Since I have the time, I decide to train my mana manipulation, forcing the energy out of my core and directing it out of my mouth. Every time the small puff of energy is released from my mouth, the ape on my back goes crazy, giggling in delight and slapping at the cloud with his hands, dispersing the mana with his hands. Cute. Eventually I discharge almost all of my mana, and by that time I'm getting hungry. How about you, little guy? Getting hungry. I can't actually communicate with my little passenger, but I assume he needs to eat in order to grow. Since I've reconstituted him, I feel at least somewhat responsible for making sure he can grow properly. I'd better head out and get some food. It's time for Anthony to contribute to the colony. Making sure my passenger is secure, I head back into the main tunnel and start sniffing around for the trails. I head further and further up, following both the trail I'm pretty sure indicates food and moving along with the other workers heading in this direction. The tunnel branches a few times, but I keep choosing the path that heads most directly up. I want to get back to the massive area I was in before. Since I'm somewhat familiar with that place, I'll be able to hunt much easier there. After almost 30 minutes of travel through the narrow tunnel, I eventually emerge back into the open space I had become familiar with. Looking about, I can see that I'm standing on top of what is essentially an anthill, a large pile of loose dirt that the workers had built up when they excavated the tunnel. After all this time, it feels quite strange to be emerging from a proper anthill. A few workers are crawling up from the tunnel, each with their own varying level of mutation and evolution. I haven't seen any ants more evolved than I myself, and honestly, I haven't seen a worker quite my own size either. It's probably a bit unusual for a single worker to amass as much biomass and experience as I have. Considering that the ants hunt in large groups, the experience would be spread pretty thin, since only the ant who delivers the final blow gets any experience at all. Add in on top of that the fact that they are probably taking everything they can capture alive back to the queen, then it must be very hard for an individual to get enough experience to evolve, let alone condense their core. Not that I would really expect anything different from the workers, unselfish, giving their all for the colony. I also plan to contribute my share, but I certainly don't intend to be quite as giving as my fellow workers. With my human intellect, I believe I can contribute my bit to the colony whilst also getting some experience and biomass for myself. Turning this way and that, I can detect a few trails leading in a couple of directions. Just when I'm thinking about which direction I should go and I see a worker scurrying back to the nest, as he approaches, I can suddenly detect a new scent. My senses are telling me that this new scent is call for reinforcements. There is food this way and they need help. Picking up the message, I decide to concentrate for a second and try to use my own pheromone gland. Obviously it isn't easy trying to use something you didn't even have in your previous life, but just like with the acid spray, there are instincts packaged with my new ant body and I quickly work out how to use it. I drop the same scent in order to relay the message further down the tunnel, and it isn't long before more workers begin to climb up the tunnel, rallying to the call for aid. This is the organization that makes ants such a successful species on Earth, dominating the world of smaller creatures with their fearsome teamwork and relentless appetite. With my message relayed, I will go forth and render my assistance. Chapter 47: On the Hunt with My Brethren. As I run along the trail, I decide to quickly spend the biomass that I have in order to improve my abilities slightly. If I'm running into another massive battle against gigantic monsters, then I want to be at my best. I'll leave the skill points until later. I'm really hoping that once I master mana manipulation, I'll be able to purchase more magic-based skills, but at the very least I want to quickly upgrade a few things. With 3 points to spend, I upgrade my regeneration to +1 as I'd promised myself I would do, and then my carapace to +2. Getting a little tougher and more survivable seems like a good move. Although I do want to save up and get my mandibles to +5 so I can choose an upgrade. I'll have to do that next. Enduring the painful itching feeling of mutation, I race off down the trail with other ants boiling out of the hill behind me and my cheerfully yelping mini bat gorilla on my back. Exactly how I'll be able to fight with this fellow around I'm not sure, but I guess I'll figure it out as I go. Hopefully he'll be smart enough not to get himself killed. If he were to die in a stupid way, it would double the pain of losing that monster core. I intend to get some work out of you, mini ape. You need to pay me back on my investment. After we run along the trail, I find that we've approached the wall on the outer edge of the space. Wow. This feels like it's a long way from the lake. Exactly how far from the nest are these guys wandering to get all the way to the center of this place from close to the wall? I can see a small tunnel opening or cave in the wall, and ants are bustling at the entrance, battling against something inside. It looks like we are raiding a monster nest. Judging by the size of the opening, it shouldn't be anything too massive, so I readily charge towards the opening, ready to assist my brethren. As I approach, the noise and din of monster battle fills my ears, growling, roaring and thudding impacts from our opponents, but an almost eerie silence from the ants as they advance endlessly. You guys seriously don't care about your own lives, do you? I can minimize casualties if I can get myself to the front line quickly. Brushing aside my smaller brethren, I bowl my way forward until I come face to face with our foe, a pack of dragon wolf cubs that have made their home here in this cave. There must be 8 or 9 of them in here. Several ants have already suffered severe damage from the fearsome impact generated by those scaled tails. I'm no longer scared of these unevolved monsters, particularly with an army of 30 ants behind me. Charge! Sensing the battle atmosphere, the little chap on my back is no longer giggling but snarling and glaring at our foes, gripping my back with all his strength and keeping his down as he tries to intimidate the enemy with his squeaky, high-pitched voice. Maybe when you're a bit bigger they'll be frightened of you, but not yet, little guy. With my improved toughness and regenerative gland ready to go, I don't care about taking a bit of damage, and I immediately push into the enemy back, snapping and biting to draw aggro onto me. A nearby cub tries to bring its tail around for a devastating smash, but crushing bite. Reacting quickly, I catch the offending tail as my mandibles. Take this. Chomp. My powerful mandibles tear through the thick muscle and sever the tail completely. Ha! I'm not like I was before. Some of the hounds turn to bite and scratch at me, inflicting minor damage, but I shrug it off and continue to cause chaos in the enemy formation. Bite. I cant another wolf by the leg, crushing the limb and reducing the enemy's mobility drastically. Shrugging off a few more blows, I push past the line of enemies and activate my regeneration gland. The freezing sensation immediately explodes within my body, spreading throughout my form within seconds, closing over my scratches and regaining my HP. Now that I've pushed past the enemy, they are perfect targets for my acid. Pow! 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 At point-blank range, blast acid into the cubs' ranks, sending them into a frenzy as the burning acid begins its deadly work. As soon as it impacts, the liquid hardens, restricting their movement and slowing them significantly. My reckless charge has forced the wolves to turn their focus onto me, exposing their backs to the rest of the invasion force, who capitalize by pressing forward, literally climbing over each other to latch onto their enemies and bring them down. The dragon wolves have been scattered and isolated, allowing the more numerous ants to maximize the advantage of their numbers. I hover around the fights, lunging forward to deal the occasional bite but letting the rest of the workers do the bulk of the fighting. At least this way they get to level their skills. However, I need to be sure that I manage to secure my own reward. Crushing bite. Dashing toward a heavily wounded wolf, I deliver the final blow. You have slain a level 4 dragon wolf cub. You have gained experience. And another. You have slain a level 2 dragon wolf cub. You have gained experience. If the workers are annoyed at me stealing the experience, they don't show it, relentlessly going about their tasks without pause. I quickly drag away first one and then the other bodies of my own kills, ensuring that I secure biomass for myself. I don't expect I'll be able to get much from these guys, seeing as they haven't evolved yet, but something is better than nothing. Seeing the food before him, the little guy cannot resist his hunger and immediately leaps forward, tearing into the food with his tiny fangs. I'm not too fussed, he can't eat that much and this food won't help me much anyway. After eating, I managed to gain 2 biomass in total, which is consistent with my expectations. My assumption is that I'll gain only half the biomass from a source that has evolved less than I have. That fraction may even shrink further if I were to consume a dragon wolf cub after evolving again, perhaps down the 1/4. Which means as I evolve I'll need to hunt tougher and tougher prey if I want to accrue biomass at a decent pace. Which means I need to ensure each of evolutions is fully reinforced by a maximized core so I don't fall behind in strength. The little guy has finished up as well and scrabbled onto my back once again. I'm going to have to come up with a name for this fella if this is going to continue. I'm not sure I can call him anything that would sweet a small and cute creature like he is now if he's going to grow up and be massive like the ape the core came from. I don't know. Tiny. Sure, why not? It'll be appropriate when he's small and ironic if he ever grows up to massive. It isn't like I can actually call him by his name anyway, this is purely for my own internal use. With Tiny on board and the work here in the cave done, I decide to venture out in search of more prey. The rest of the workers have cleaned up the area, dragging the biomass and any wounded ants back to the nest for healing. Looks like they are smart enough to recognize the queen can heal their allies up until they are strong enough to regenerate their own health. Quite the successful raid for the colony. The first of many. With Tiny firmly on board, I move away from the trail and start to take a roundabout path back to the nest, hoping I can encounter something on the way. I briefly consider putting my 2 biomass immediately into upgrading my regeneration gland, but I decide to hold on. Upgrading my mandibles could give me a huge boost to my offensive abilities. It will be worth saving and finding out. I can hear a lot of activity around me actually. There seems to be more than the usual amount of monsters moving around in the open, at least from my limited experience. I don't want to tangle with a large group of unevolved monsters. I'd rather find something that has evolved once so I get a decent reward in terms of biomass. And I have found just the thing. Chapter 48: Anthony and the Giant Centipede. Slithering through the underbrush is a monster I've not seen for some time, the giant centipede. It's quite clear from the sheer size of it that this monster doesn't compress its muscle at all during evolution, ramping up in size to get the highest might gain possible. However, I still think I can take it one-on-one. Particularly if I can get the jump on it. Thanks to me not being quite so large and my advanced stealth skill, I'm going to spot these guys first 9 times out of 10. The monster is snaking through the undergrowth in the forest, clearly on the prowl for some prey. Little does it realize that there is an ant trail not far away. As soon as it came across one of those workers, it would be done for, since reinforcements would quickly overwhelm it if it chose to fight. Perhaps even more unfortunate, this particular centipede happened to come across me. Pow! Directly from the commercial zone, my acid blasts against the adult claw centipede, catching it across the midsection and a few of its legs. Pow! Before it can react, I hit it again. This time landing more on the tail section and catching a few more legs down the left side. I'm not too worried about inflicting significant damage with my acid, although every bit of hurt I can put on my target helps. The real aim is to let the restrictive acid do its work, hampering the big centipede's movement. Aggravated by this sudden attack, the beast snaps its jaws in rage and charges towards the source of the offending acid. I can already see its gait is a little awkward as a result of my sneak attack. The perfect start. I move perpendicular to the creature's assault, forcing it to constantly turn as it runs. The claws on this particular specimen look especially mean, perhaps they've been mutated a few times. I'll make a note not to tangle with them too directly. As the beast approaches, I suddenly change direction, charging directly towards it, forcing Tiny to grip onto my back tightly, lest he fall due to the sudden shift in momentum. The little guy is completely fearless though, growling at our enemy will of his minimal volume. The centipede is quick to respond, flipping its back half into the air with shocking speed and stabbing downward with the vicious barb on its tail. I'm prepared for it, leaping directly forward with all 6 legs. Whoosh! The sting impacts heavily into the ground after rushing just over my head as my jump carries me over the centipede's head, between his claws and directly onto his body. Haha! Climbing on the opponent is my new special move. Take this. Crushing bite. I dart forward and deliver a powerful chomp directly to the midsection of the monster as it attempts to withdraw its tail. The body on this monster is damn thick, I can't fit my jaws around it, but the carapace crunches and cracks under my assault. Chomp has reached level 5, upgrade available. Oh ho! I'll take that right now. Chomp minus piercing chomp. Cost 1 SP, the upgraded chomp skill, an active skill that greatly enhances the ability of a bite attack to penetrate solid resistance. Okay, so this skill is for piercing through solid defenses, whereas crushing bite is better for blunt force damage. Let's try it out. Piercing bite. Once again my mandibles are charged with energy, signaling the beginning of an active skill. This time, instead being spread evenly across the flatter surfaces of my jaws, the energy gathers on the sharper tips, glowing brighter and brighter until those points shine like solid diamond. I lunge again, bringing my mandibles shit with incredible force. This time the pointed areas of my jaws punch straight through the carapace as if it isn't there, ripping into the inside of the monster, causing it to shriek with pain. The centipede writhes as a result of my bite, contorting its body into knots as it attempts to fling me off. I'm not letting go, buddy. All of your weapons are useless against me as long as I stay here, no jaws, no claws and no tail sting. Bite, bite, bite. After 3 more piercing bites I've done some real damage and the centipede is reeling, working even harder to throw me off. Eventually, and can't hold on anymore, Tiny and I are sent flying through the air, eventually thudding into the ground several meters away. Ouch! With the little guy on my back, I didn't want to execute my patented rolling landing in case he was crushed, so I angles my body to take all of the force of the impact directly on my gut. Turning my head slightly, I can see the little dude is a bit dazed but otherwise unharmed. This is going to be a lot easier when you can fight for yourself. After costing me a premium core, you're now causing me all this pain. I hope he's worth it. Whilst I grumble to myself, the centipede is trying to get its feet working again in order to mount some sort of offensive. The restrictive acid has really gummed up quite a few of its legs, and the internal damage I've caused it only hampering its movement further. While you're trying to get your feet under you. Pow! One more blast of acid smacks the centipede directly in the face, effectively blinding it and dealing even more damage. Nobody said I had to fight fair. In fact, it would be stupid to do so. With its ability to see almost totally destroyed, it becomes child's play to move stealthily around the monster, biting at vulnerable areas and then retreating until it eventually succumbs to its wounds. You have slain level 6 adult claw centipede. You have gained experience. Phew. Didn't take much damage at all in that encounter. Goes to show that the largest and most threatening monsters in this area are actually fairly stupid and can be defeated with the correct strategy. They gain their power by evolving in an uneven way, abandoning the more expensive brain development in favor of brute strength. In this sense, I really have cheated the system, having a proper human mind from the very beginning. I have to wonder why that is the case. I guess my soul was brought here to this world after I died on Earth, but why? For what reason? And if my soul was put into an ant monster, then why wasn't that ant monster just the usual, stupid one? Why does this body have an advanced brain capable of properly housing my human mind? It doesn't seem to make sense. Whilst I stand still ruminating, Tiny has already leapt off my back and started chomping into his next meal. Hey! How can you be so hungry already? You haven't even done anything. That's my food. I rush forward to join him at his meal. Nom nom. I'm determined to consume as much of this massive centipede as I can fit. Between the two of us we managed to finish off just over half of the centipede and I gained 4 more biomass. Evolved creatures really do provide more biomass per pound. Not wanting to waste the food, I start to lay a trail as I make my way back to nest. When I get back to the ant hill, I stand around waiting until a worker comes up and starts to sniff around, detecting my trail. Come on guy, head over this way. I lead the way a little, laying down the trail again to strengthen it until he starts to head off on his own. Eventually he'll find the rest of that centipede and come back for reinforcements until they can bring the whole thing back to the colony. Job done. Good day for me, good day for the colony. Time to spend this biomass and keep practicing my mana manipulation. Crawling into the nest, I make my way down, checking in on the little larvae crawling about and their attendant workers before retreating to one of the more empty chambers. Once there I spend all of my regenerated mana and I'm finally rewarded for my efforts. Mana manipulation has reached level 4. At last. Now I just need to keep pushing through until I get to level 5. The dream of being able to use magic is getting closer and closer. Now for the mandibles. Do you wish to improve mandibles to +5? This will cost 5 biomass. I'll still have 1 left over, I guess I'll save that for now. At this level you may choose a mutation advancement, select from the menu. The menu unfolds in my mind and once again I'm staggered by the sheer variety on offer. All sorts of elemental upgrades are here. Thunder mandibles? Dealing electrical damage sounds rad as hell. Savage mandibles? Berserk mandibles, each consecutive bite deals more damage. Vampiric mandibles, draining health from enemies with each chomp? So many cool options. My eyes are boggling out of my head. I feel like I'm in a candy store. Damn it Gandalf, are you sure I can only choose one? I need to settle down and consider my options carefully. With my acid I chose a utility option rather than a direct damage increase when I upgraded. For my mandibles I want something that makes my bites a more lethal weapon. Once again, I'm hesitant to take an elemental option, even though they sound extremely cool. There are a few options that do what I want but there is one that grabs my eye. Infused mandibles allows mana to be channeled through, increasing the damage of every bite. Chapter 49 Nest Assault. I have high hopes for this upgrade. At the moment I can't use my mana for anything other than practice, it serves no offensive purpose, and I can't help but wonder if I'll eventually be able to manipulate my mana into different elemental types eventually. If I'm right then this could be a massive advantage, even if it is a long way off. For now, this upgrade will give me what I want most, which is a rounded offensive boost. Choose Infused Mandibles. God. My face. My precious face. Once the mutation begins my entire face erupts with painful itching. It almost feels as if wires are tunneled through my head, connecting my mandibles and my inner body. This is the worst. It takes a long time for the mutation to end. When it finally stops I feel like crying in relief and once again I'm forced to remember that ants have no tears. But my heart is weeping. Getting stronger is an amazing feeling but the process completely sucks. Having spent my mana and my biomass it is time to rest up. I still have skill points to spend but I'll keep holding them for skill upgrades and potential magic skills. Time for a nap. Without further ado I flop onto my side and begin to drift into the dreamless state of torpor. Tiny scratches around for a while before leaning himself against my back. Before my senses finally fade away I can hear him snoring softly behind me. And up. With a jolt I shake myself awake, ready to take on another day of challenges. Since there isn't really any hurry I make sure to spend the mana I accumulated whilst resting on more manipulation practice. I try something different this time, inspire the queen, that is to say, mother, passing on her healing spell through her antennae. Using my mind to control the flow of energy in my core I direct it out, into my body and up through my antennae. Eventually the mana is released as a brightly glowing wisp of smoke, drifting from the tip of each antennae. After completing my training I wake up Tiny, who is still snoring happily. Is it just me, or is he a bit bigger today? And wait for him to jump on my back before heading down to the nesting chamber. There isn't really any rush to get started quickly today, so I felt like taking some time to play around with the brood. The little white grubs don't have much going for them at this stage in their development. No eyes or ears of any kind. They are totally dependent on the workers to care for them until they are large enough to spin a cocoon. The little things are cute though. I try tickling them with my antennae and they start wriggling around happily, rolling away to escape. This starts a new game where Tiny and I take turns to roll the little guys back and forth as they wibble and wobble in delight. Well, enough playing around, time to go and secure food for the next generation. Wait, I smell something. I rush out of the chamber and into the tunnel to see the workers rushing about, extremely agitated. It doesn't take long for me to work out why. The scent I detect in the air is the pheromone for emergency. All the workers are rushing down in response to this distress call. What in the heck is going on down there? Being larger and stronger than the other ants, I push my way forward, Tiny in his customary saddle on my back, rushing down to the queen's chamber. Once there, I can see the queen pacing around agitatedly, as many as 30 workers clustered around her defensively. There is one other tunnel leading further down in this chamber and workers are streaming down it at the moment. That is the source of the emergency. Curious and alarmed, I charge forward, bursting into the tunnel and following my fellow ants. What the heck is going on, guys? Tunnel collapse. Food located. Are we under attack? After a few minutes of running down the tunnel, I get my answer. The sounds of brutal impact and flesh being torn are ringing in my ears. We are under attack. Defend the colony. Roaring in my mind, I double my speed. I'll reach the front line and smash our enemies to bits. How dare they raid our colony? When I eventually make it, I'm horrified by what I see. Broken and sliced bodies of my fellow workers litter the ground already, but as soon as more arrive, they throw themselves into the fray. However, their sacrifice doesn't seem to do much to deter the invaders. Distorted, bizarre-looking creatures loom before me, walking on four legs that end in strange clawed feet. Their hunched upper bodies are grotesquely bulked with muscle, with almost no head or face to speak of. From the center of their chest protrudes a hideous beak. Instead of arms, four glistening blades, made from bone or steel, I can't say, extend from their torso, attached to short limbs that allow them to slash and hack with brutal force. What the heck are these things? Have they climbed up here from further down below? They look like they mean serious business. I don't have the luxury of waiting. Workers are being slaughtered as I wait around. I have to throw myself into the fray. Bullying my way to the front by shoving and dragging workers out of my way, I put myself at the forefront of the reinforcements. It's difficult to see how many of these insane creatures there are, since the narrow tunnel only allows 2 of them to fight at a time, but I can. The tunnel is packed with the monsters behind the leading figures. This is going to be a tough fight. I don't want to take Tiny into the middle of this. I quickly shake my body left and right, like a wet dog, until I dislodge the little guy. He cries out in protest, but there is no way he will be able to make it through this battle on my back. I can't do any more for him than this. Come on then, you freaks, let's dance. Before the rest of my colony start climbing over me to reach their immediate death, I charge, drawing the attention of our enemies directly to myself. Slash. I duck under the first strike, but already there are more coming. Slash. 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 With 2 of the monsters in front of me, there are 8 blades creating a wall of steel. I can't get through each slash, forcing me to duck or retreat. Well, Anthony, if you can't close in without getting hurt, you'll just have to get hurt. Dodging left and right, I dive forward, trying to slip past the deadly defense of these malformed creatures. The second I move, the 2 monsters in front me react, sweeping their weapons down and around to cut off any chance of escape. Come on, NN. Thunk. Agony blooms from my back as one of the edges cuts deep into my carapace, piercing and cutting into the muscle below. I grit my teeth and continue to press forward. You'll have to do more than that to stop me. My desperate lunge has brought me next to the monster's legs. Their bulk and the narrow tunnel makes it difficult to turn and bring their weapons to bear on me now, and I certainly am not going to wait around to give them a chance. Crushing. Bite. Mustering my strength, I crush my jaws down onto the closest leg, the dense muscle in my head powering them to close tighter and tighter. Snap! My mandibles meet each other, shearing directly through the limb, causing the creature to roar in anger as it loses its balance. Since these monsters are soft-limbed, I decide to attack with the crushing bite. The additional penetration of the piercing bite would be wasted on these fleshy targets. I turn to the other monster and latch my mandibles directly onto its midsection, ripping a deep wound into body. Not satisfied, I bite again. Then again. Crushing bite has reached level 4. My jaws are dripping with ichor and the monster is writhing in pain. The leading two monsters are sufficiently distracted to allow the rest of the workers to close in and get to work. Some of them are still injured by the furiously flashing blade arms, but with their numbers the ants begin to grip onto the limbs, pinning the creatures down. I've already lost 12 HP from that one slash. Right behind the monsters I just attacked there are 2 more, and more behind them. I hope there aren't too many. Chapter 50 Storm of Blades. I have a little breathing room whilst the workers deal with the monsters next to me, and I decide to use it for maximum effect. Turning on the spot, I present my famed commercial plaza down the tunnel. The enemy are only meters away, so aiming isn't really necessary. Once in position, I unleash my acid. Pow! Pow! 2 blasts sizzle their way through the air before impacting directly into the massive torsos of these horrendous threshing machines. The acid immediately begins to hiss as it burns into their flesh, hardening and sticking as soon as contact is made. Hopefully, I've managed to slow their blades down a little. Enraged, the 2 monsters start to bowl their way forward, slashing wildly with their limbs, even cutting into the rear of their 2 still struggling allies. When the blade slices through the air and impacts into the monster to my right, I seize on this chance and rush forward. If one of the weapons is stuck in that poor guy, then it won't be able to be swung at me. This should create an opening. I burst forward and then cut immediately to my right, running directly under the lodged blade and up onto the wall of the narrow tunnel and then directly onto the roof. The ceiling isn't high enough to be out of reach of those sharp limbs, but of the 4 blades only the upper 2 will be able to reach, cutting the number of worries in half. I also have to consider I won't be quite as nimble upside down, but I feel like it's my best chance. Crash! The monster in front of me rips its blade out of the grievous wound it has caused its own ally and shift its entire body to throw weight behind the strike it directs at me, slamming the gleaming, hard edge directly into the rock in front of me. Go! Instinctively I leap, avoid the blade and landing on the powerful arm from which the cutting blade emerges. My feet scrabble to grip on the shifting flesh of the creature before my claws manage to arrest my momentum and dig in, allowing me to run over the shoulder and onto the creature's back. Pow! I take the chance to fire another shot and the blade monster next to this one, splattering the beast across its flank with stinging acid. The creature turns as much as it can in the narrow space, and I finally manage to spot the eyes above that savage beak, tiny red orbs that seem to burn with hate. Shrieking loudly, the insane creature brings its upper 2 blades down on me with terrible force, the sharp edges whistling as they cut through the air. Desperately, I roll to the side, almost succeeding in dodging the strike. Crunch! The 2 blades smash down into the body of the creature I'm standing on, mortally wounding it. I lose 2 legs on my left side as collateral damage, the limbs sheared clean off close to my body. The pain is intense. I didn't think they'd be so crazy as to smash down on their own ally like that. They caught me unprepared. Instantly I activate my regeneration, welcoming the explosion of freezing cold within. I won't be able to get my legs back properly, but it will surely help a little. Moving is excruciating, but I scramble forward desperately, climbing onto the blade arms before the monster can retract them for another strike. The limbs from which the blades extend are powerful, thick with ropes of dense muscle. If I want to cut through this, it's going to be difficult. Time to find out how my infused mandibles will go. As I open my mandibles wide, I activate my upgraded mandibles with a thought. Instantly I feel mana gushing out of my core, flooding through channels and directly into my mandibles. I engage crushing bite at the same time, and my mandibles begin to glow brighter and brighter as the mana builds in them. They start to release blue steam. Take this. Snap. Infused with the mana I've managed to regenerate since my last practice, my mandibles shear directly through the monster's limb, cutting it directly off. Holy cow. That was effective. But it used half of my remaining mana. I'll only get one more of those. My foe roars in pain as one of its deadly blades has been removed, and I desperately scrabble with my remaining legs to claw my way onto the monster's back, a place of relative safety. By this time my regeneration has done all it can for me, restoring 8 HP, but it's not enough to bring my missing limbs back. 2 small stumps have emerged from the remaining sections of the missing legs. I can wiggle them a bit, but they are a long way from a complete leg. More of these vicious monsters are crowding in the tunnel behind, trying to shove forward, their razor beaks shrieking as they slash wildly into the air. How many of these stupid things are there? I need to finish this one off and then retreat to get my bearings back. Crushing bite. I bite into the creature's back over and over again, tearing into the muscle until my enemy collapses, but I don't stop there. I keep biting until the voice of Gandalf echoes in my mind. You have slain level 14 Quadriferum Savissimus. You have gained experience. You have reached level 5. Nart. I was hoping I'd be able to evolve, which might have really helped me in this situation. For now I just have to retreat back to safety. Climbing over the body of my defeated enemy, I make my way back towards the front line where my fellow workers have finished off the first 2 monsters and are swarming over them, consuming them and pressing forward into the tunnel to continue the fight. My eyes light up when I see the biomass available in front of me. My regeneration gland is empty, but if I can snack up for a few minutes I might be able to gain some more HP back. I won't be able to regrow my limbs in such a short time, but every little bit helps. Staggering forward I push aside a few workers and start wolfing down food. You have consumed a new source of biomass, Quadriferum Savissimus. You are awarded 1 biomass. Basic profile of the Quadriferum Savissimus unlocked. Quadriferum Savissimus, 4-blade Berserker. This monster has 4 bone metal compound blades on its upper body and enters a furious rage when in combat, increasing its strength but causing it to struggle to tell friend from foe. The profile makes a lot of sense. These monsters are certainly berserkers, hacking into each other without a second thought. Workers continue to arrive at the fight, some of them climbing straight over me as I eat, rushing forward to fight. I have to eat quickly and try to get back in there. These ants won't be able to handle such dreadful monsters, no matter how much they outnumber them. Fortunately, the enemy is having a tough time climbing over the bulky bodies of their fallen comrades, the narrow confines of the tunnel hampering their movements. The ant reinforcements make use of the distance to begin an acid bombardment, launching salvo after salvo of the burning substance at the foe. You have gained 1 biomass. With 3 biomass collected, I immediately upgrade my carapace to +3, any little boost to tank up against those savage blades is welcome. I don't think it will make much difference, but any assistance is welcome at this point. This upgrade could be the difference between death and living on 1 HP. Due to the current situation, the mutation itch that explodes all over my body barely registers in my mind. I have more important things to worry about than a stupid itch. The colony is under attack. More and more workers are flooding down the tunnel at this point. There must be almost 100 of them now, fully half of the workforce. The rest of them are probably protecting the brood and the queen, which is a good idea. With these numbers we may have a chance. Painfully, I drag myself towards the wall and manage to crawl about halfway up. I still have some acid in the tank and I want to use it to support the rest of the worker in the front lines. I can see a swirling maelstrom of combat down the tunnel. The first 4 berserkers have been dealt with, but more are crowding behind, their mad shrieks filled with bloodlust and the urge to kill. Workers are clambering over the dead, fearlessly charging forward to engage in greater and greater numbers. I take a moment to aim carefully before firing. Pow! The berserkers are fairly large targets, and thankfully for me, the area I want to hit is directly in the middle of their chest. Pow! Pow! 3 blasts of acid arc through the air, hitting 3 separate monsters, splattering over their faces and beaks. I may not have been able to get their eyes since they are so recessed, set deeply into the chest, but the hardening, sticky acid burning into their face drives the creatures completely insane, and they start to swing wildly with their forelimbs, cutting into their own allies. Take that. Just as I rejoice, I can hear a commotion behind me and I turn to see what is going on. Is that the Queen? Chapter 51 Royal Intervention. A horde of workers surround Her Majesty, some of them even trying to pull her back into the nest to safety. She is so large she fills the narrow tunnel, easily able to resist any attempt to remove her from the battle. Her intelligent eyes survey the field, and I can see a glint of anger as she sees the invading monsters and her fallen workers. She chitters angrily, and gradually light begins to build in her antennae, growing brighter and brighter. This is far more energy than she used when she healed me. Exactly what is she going to do? Her antennae have so much concentrated mana in them that my eyes hurt looking at them. Whatever this magic is, it's going to be powerful. With a cry, she releases the pent-up energy and it floods into the tunnel. In an instant, all of the ants are bathed in light, the magic pouring into their bodies like water. I feel it instantly. The freezing numb sensation explodes as my body drinks in more and more of the magic. My injured legs have grown so cold they are painful, and as I watch they begin to regrow before my very eyes. Slowly at first, and then with increasing speed, the flesh extends further and further down as I continue to greedily pull in as much healing energy as I can get. All through the tunnel, injured ants are staggering back to their feet and into the fight as their wounds close and limbs regrow with astonishing speed. What incredible magic! I have no idea how much MP was required to pour out a spell like that, but it must have been insanely high. I have to revise my opinion of just how advanced a monster a queen ant is. She must have a seriously powerful core in order to fuel this kind of magic. Of course, she has the benefit of the workers bringing all of the resources they can to her, but it is still extremely impressive. Along with her healing magic, the mere presence of the queen has energized the workers in the fight. They have redoubled their ferocity, perhaps driven by an instinct to protect the queen at all costs. From my perch on the wall, I can see the workers pushing forward relentlessly, biting, spraying acid, not even serious wounds stopping them anymore. My legs have almost fully regrown now, and I can feel that my acid gland has also increased its production rate, enough for me to fire off 2 more shots. I aim further back into the darkness of the tunnel and unleash 2 blasts towards the berserkers at the very back. That distance is the very limit of my range, and I can't be too accurate, but hopefully the painful acid will cause them to strike out at each other, making my life a whole lot easier. Improved acid shot has reached level 5. Nothing. Do I have to raise it to level 10 before I can upgrade it now? Makes sense, I guess. I need to stop expecting the system in this world to make things easy for me. Empty of acid and with my legs regrown, it's time to get back into the fight. Quickly glancing back, I can see that the queen is not advancing further into the tunnel, putting herself at risk, but staying back, watching her colony go into battle in defense of their home. I'm glad she isn't going forward. The tunnel is too narrow for her to fight properly in this place anyway. I move onto the ceiling and start making my way back to the front. With their deep-set eyes being located relatively low in their bodies, I don't think these monsters are able to look up very well, and this proves true as I manage to sneak my way past the front line. Beneath me, ants are swarming over their enemies, their numbers too large for the distracted and raging berserkers to effectively keep off. Workers are climbing over the walls, slipping under clawed feet and latching on with powerful mandibles, dragging the monsters down. It feels like the tide is starting to turn. I make my way further into the tunnel. If I can disrupt the enemy back here, then life will get easier for the ants at the front as they make their way forward. The acid attacks I launched have caused ample chaos already. Several berserkers are heavily wounded and others are shrieking, arm blades slick with gore after lashing out at those around them. I choose my moment carefully and drop down onto the back of one of the monsters, directly behind its upright torso. I've really never seen anything like these monsters. A horrible mishmash of parts assembled into an insane killing machine. Something like this could only be the product of this underground realm. I cannot imagine nature producing a creature like this. What terrible intellect designed this madness? Time to put the infused mandibles to work once more. Once again, mana floods out of my core and into my mandibles, charging them energy. Crushing bite. The charged mandibles shear directly through the creature's flesh, creating a massive wound directly in the monster's back. Ichor gushes out, coating my head in the horrible stuff. The monster shrieks with shattering noise and desperately tries to throw me off. My grip won't be denied, and I hold on to bite again. More and more crushing bites rip into the creature until it stops moving. Crushing bite has reached level 5. You have slain level 11 4-clawed berserker. You have gained experience. You have reached level 6. So much experience. These creatures must be fairly advanced to have such high levels and to advance my skills so rapidly. I don't pause, the monster behind the most recent victim is distracted, battling against its neighbor. When the creature swings wildly with its massive blades, I hurl myself forward, running underneath it and ripping into its leg. This time a piercing chomp. My mandibles dig deep into the limb, the sharper parts penetrating right down to the bone. The victim immediately rears up, stomping the ground beneath with its clawed feet, but I've already moved on towards its rear legs. Chomp. Piercing chomp has reached level 2. With 2 massive wounds on 2 legs, the Berserker cannot properly maintain its balance and gradually falls to one side, slamming into the monster behind it. That creature roars and begins lash out once again, rampaging amongst its own kind. These creatures are really incapable of working together in group. More to the point, they don't seem to be the type of monster that would work together in the first place. Why the heck are there so many making their way up here? Eager to get the experience, I continue to bite into the monster until I can deal lethal damage. You have defeated level 8 4-blade Berserker. You have gained XP. Not quite enough to raise my level all at once, eh? Complete chaos has swept through the ranks of the enemy at this point. They are killing each other almost faster than the ants can bring them down. Since the queen appeared, the battle has been one-sided, the sheer numbers of ants doing enough damage to send the attackers into disarray. I continue to run interference, chopping at a leg here and there to knock monsters over or send them into a frenzy. I gain another level in piercing chomp as I do so, and I manage to finish off one more of the beasts, giving me level 7 before the madness finally ends. The tunnel is filled with berserker bodies. Many ants have fallen as well, no nearly as many as I had feared at least. The queen's healing was able to save dozens of workers who had been wounded right at the beginning of the fight. Exhausted, I take a look around the tunnel. Workers are already starting to harvest the incredible wealth of biomass around us, picking over the food, breaking pieces, often carrying them back to the colony or devouring it then and there, filling their social stomachs. In all there were 21 berserkers. Where they had come from or why they had advanced up this tunnel from down below, I don't know. Where they forced out of their normal area and were seeking food and safety higher up. These guys were certainly high-leveled, evolved monsters, not something I would expect to see here. To tell the truth, I want to collapse this tunnel. If creatures like that can reach us by climbing up here, then I want to put a stop to it. My only worry is that workers would just open it up again. I hear a squeaking sound next to me and I turn to see Tiny, tugging at one of my legs. Hey there, little guy, glad to see you were able to stay safe. He is looking at the food around us with greed lighting up his eyes. Actually, I think he's drooling. Come on, man. There's no need for. Just eat, would you? I push him towards his meal with one leg. When he looks back at me, I just push him forward again and he seems to get the picture, leaping forward to consume the biomass. Actually, considering the sheer amount of biomass here, this could be a massive boon for the colony. Many ants will be able to mutate, and the sheer amount of food will fuel the growth of the next generation. Glancing back up the tunnel, I can't see the queen anymore. She probably retreated back into the nest and is preparing to lay a ton of eggs. The workers are going to be busy for a while. Despite being completely exhausted, I drag myself forward and start to eat. I need to stock up on as much biomass as I can. Chapter 52 R&R. Rest and relaxation. Anthony, you hard-working ant, you. Don't you deserve a break? Haven't you worked hard enough for the moment? Why yes, me, I have to say your words are wise. Time for a break. Before I returned to the nest, I packed myself full of biomass and managed to gain 10 points, a massive haul. Clearly the creatures were highly evolved, at least 2 evolutions for sure, for them to provide such rich biomass. Not to mention my level has risen to 7. I'm practically swimming in skill points. Another large discovery was made also. I was able to recover 2 cores from the berserkers. Whilst I'd been hoping that their cores would grant some sort of bonus, they simply increased my maximum mana when I absorbed them. They did, however, increase my maximum by 4 points each, which brought my new max MP up to 36. I wonder how much further until I max out my core? If my guess is correct, I'll be able to evolve again at level 10. I won't even consider evolving without a maxed core unless I'm forced into it. The best possible evolution every time. That's my policy. In celebration of my incredible wealth and to let my nerves rest after coming so close to death, not to mention suffering the trauma of having 2 legs chopped off, I decided I would rest within the colony and not leave until my mana manipulation has reached level 5 so I can upgrade it and spend all of my skill points. When Tiny and I awake in our empty chamber, I practice my mana manipulation until my energy reserves are empty. I can practice a lot more now that my core is upgraded. Hopefully it won't take long until I get the skill to level 5. Once that task is done, it's time to spend my biomass. So much to spend. It's hard to choose. I could upgrade my carapace all the way to +5 and still have a point left over. This is an attractive option, helping me tank up and letting me pick a mutation advancement. I could upgrade my regeneration gland to +4, which would be nice. Antennae could be taken to level 4, which would leave 3 points to spend on other things. Damn choices. In the end, I think I have to prioritize the mutation advancements. Each and every one of them has been a huge boost. I'm sure my carapace will prove no different. Would you like to upgrade your carapace to +5? This will cost 9 biomass. Sure. At this level you may choose a mutation advancement. Select from the menu. Once more the extensive list of possible mutations unfolds in my mind, and once more I try not to be distracted by all the shiny choices. Venomous carapace, cause poison to infect things that strike you. Spiked carapace, be covered in sharp barbs. Aerodynamic carapace, increased movement speed. What the heck? There are all sorts of options that provide strange abilities and bonuses, like the sloped carapace, which helps deflect piercing attacks by making the outer shell angled, or the flexi carapace, which helps bounce back blunt force strikes. What I really want from my upgrade is an all-around defense improvement. Something I can rely on to protect me. I have an image in my mind of a brutal armor truck, bursting through the small fry, their small attacks pinging off the hardened armor. I think I've found what I'm after. Diamond carapace significantly hardens the outer carapace, increasing its resistance to physical harm. It may not be flashy, it may not do anything exciting, but it's exactly what I'm after. The weakness of this upgrade is that it does nothing to protect from magical damage or any kind of status effect, but from what I can gather it provides the greatest increase to physical protection. I'll need to find other solutions to those other types of attack later. For now most the threats I face are physical in nature, so this upgrade will be a huge help. Do you wish to confirm Diamond Carapace? Heck yeah. Oh no. No, damn it. Without the distraction of life-threatening battle to divert my mind, the mutation experience is completely torturous. My carapace covers my entire body and the entire thing feels like it is on fire. Hot barbs of maddening itch pierce through my body every now and again, causing me to spasm and jerk my legs madly as I flop about on the ground. Tiny watches the whole process with a curious look on his face. Damn ape. Why do you get to look so relaxed? Mind you, he is definitely getting larger. Eventually the mutation is over and I take a moment to admire my new carapace. The color seems deeper somehow, and here and there some parts of the shell seem to reflect the light brightly, shimmering occasionally in the gloom of this room. Don't tell me, there is actual diamond blended with my carapace? Does this mean my shell is now worth a ton of money? I hope I haven't just put a huge target on my own back. Next order of business is to snack up. This time I was smart enough to shear off some food and transport it back to my sleeping space once I was full. Of course, to prevent my fellow workers from taking it away, I had to bury it and sleep on top of that spot. Merrily I unearth my morning Berserker snack. Tiny and I dig straight in. A little dirt doesn't spoil the food when you're a monster eating other monsters, it all tastes disgusting anyway. After consuming this food I gain another 2 biomass, leaving me with 3 points. I immediately use them to mutate my antennae to +3. My offensive capability has increased, now my defensive capability has also increased, but I still want sensory superiority to be a focus. When I finally start to mutate past +5 I'll return to upgrading eyesight and then antennae. Deep down I always want to find the other monsters before they find me. After everything has settled down my status now looks like this. Name, Anthony. Level, 7 core. Might, 31. Toughness, 22. Cunning, 25. Will, 18. HP, 50/50ths. MP, 3/36ths. Skills: Excavation Level 1, Improved Acid Shot. Level 5, Kerp Level 4, Crushing Bite Level 5, Advanced Stealth Level 3, Piercing Chomp Level 3, Tunnel Sense Level 4, Mana Manipulation Level 4. Mutations: Focused Eyes +5, Antennae +3, Restrictive Acid +5, Legs +1, Infused Mandibles +5, Diamond Carapace +5, Regeneration Gland +1, Pheromones. Species: Mature Ant Worker, Formica. Skill points: 5. Biomass: 0. Such a quantum leap from how I was just after I was born. I feel happy that I'm laying a solid foundation for future growth right now. Getting all of my mutations up and focusing on my core and magic skills will surely pay dividends in the future. Since I've reconnected with the colony, there's at least some level of safety that surrounds me. Unless we continue to get attacked. All of my biomass and MP spent, I take Tiny out for walk around the nest. I can see many workers sporting new mutations today, some larger mandibles or longer antennae here and there. The colony must have consumed well over 100 biomass all up. It would impossible for the queen to take all of it, so the workers were able to reap some rewards. Paying a visit to the nursery, there are quite a few new pupae along one wall. This is the final stage of infancy. After they grow in these cocoons, the new hatchling workers will emerge. What's more impressive is the huge clutch of new eggs that have appeared in one corner. There must be hundreds of them. The queen really went all out. If the colony can secure enough food to grow these guys into adulthood, then the colony could double in size very quickly, which would in turn help secure my own safety. We will rise together, my ant brethren. Tiny and I play with the larvae for a while and then pay a visit down to the royal chamber. Not unsurprisingly, the queen is taking a nap, resting after her exertions of the last few hours. She must have emptied out all of her mana to cast that healing spell, and I can vaguely understand just how mentally draining it is to shift that much mana. Quite a few workers are standing guard around the queen, ensuring nothing untoward happens to the most important individual to the colony. That is, the most important other than me. Chapter 53 Skill Up. With my inspection of the goings-on of the colony complete, I make my way back to my own quiet sleeping chamber and continue to practice my mana manipulation until all of my MP is spent, and then I once again rest. I haven't been able to be this lazy since my rebirth, and it brings me a great deal of comfort to do so now. Perhaps my stress had been building up over this time. To be able to sleep and play without having to worry for a brief time seems like such a decadent luxury in this life. If something isn't trying to rip your face off in that moment, then you are probably the one trying to rip something else's face off. The never-ending war for biomass and experience rages throughout these caves, from the open spaces to the deepest, darkest tunnels. The monsters in this place are always hunting, hungering for more. Does it ever stop? Where do all these monsters come from? And why? I still have so many questions about this world. For all of my success in surviving and growing to this stage, the thing I lack most is information. The kind of information a human society would have: history, geography, science. What in the name of all that is good is going on in this place? The things that seem so insane to me must make perfect sense to the civilizations that live here. If only I could find someone I could communicate with. Someone I can communicate with and that wouldn't cut my head off the moment they saw me. The queen is about the most intelligent and friendly monster I've seen, but I can't exactly communicate with her. Perhaps if she evolves further or gains enough biomass, she will develop some capacity to convey information. Ant speak. Telepathy. Something like that. Nothing I can do on that front except wait. The cycle of rest continues for 2 more days. When I wake up, I practice my mana manipulation until my MP runs dry and then bum around the colony until I get tired. By the end of the 2nd day, I could swear the queen was throwing disapproving glances at me whenever I walked by, like a worried mother fretting about her useless child. Damn it, Mum. Just a few days off, okay? The rest of the workforce never stops for a moment, endlessly running back and forth, venturing out to scout and find food, then bringing it back, tending to the brood, cleaning up the nest, then entering torpor to rest before starting the whole process over again. I honestly feel tired just watching them. Tiny seems to be enjoying our vacation, lazing about on my back as we travel and sleeping at every opportunity. I can't help but think he'll get hungry if we keep slugging about much longer. During my practice on the third day, the gruff voice of Gandalf finally comes through. Mana manipulation has reached level 5, upgrade available. At last. Your voice is like manna from heaven to me, O Gandalf. How long was this stupid system going to make me wait? How I've struggled, tempted constantly by urge to spend my precious skill points. I haven't even allowed myself to open the skill menu, lest I succumb and waste points that I may have needed to learn sweet magic skills. But now my time has arrived. Eagerly I whip open the skills menu to advance mana manipulation. Mana manipulation minus mana shaping. This advanced skill increases the ability to control mana into specific shapes and forms required for casting spells. Okay. This looks promising. I'll upgrade that one immediately. Now for the second step, looking at the complete list of available skills. I'm actually a bit nervous before I open it. I'm really hoping for something good. When I do finally open the menu, a flood of new options have appeared, completely shocking me. Skills I recognize from the beginning are still there, but many others have joined them: combat skills, defensive skills, mental skills. So many delicious goodies, I can hardly choose. Before I let myself get distracted, I quickly hunt down any magic-related skills in the list. Forceful mana increases the ability to release significant amounts of mana in a shorter span, with greater impact. External mana manipulation grants the capacity to control and manipulate mana outside of the user's body. Mana sensing gives the ability to sense bodies of concentrated mana using the monster core. These three skills are directly related to magic or mana in some way. Whilst I was hoping to be able to throw fireballs, it looks like I'm still in the beginning stages. I'm a simple ant. When I see mana in the skill title, I buys it. As soon as I confirm my purchases, the now familiar sensation like trickling water over my brain. New knowledge flows lightly into my mind, pooling into the cracks and crevices, filling up the places that were lacking. I have only a single skill point remaining, but there are still so many fantastic skills to choose from. Just as I'm agonizing over which skill to take, a name in the list suddenly catches my attention. I think I know what this one is about. Core mechanic enables the user to manipulate the structure of a monster core on a superficial level. Even though this skill does nothing for me in combat, healing, scouting, or magic, I can't help but think that this skill could be key to my future in this world. I remember when I reconstituted Tiny from a core, the system suggested that some skills would enable the ability to customize the process. Probably in a similar way to how I could somewhat control my own evolution. Despite being unclear on exactly what this skill entails, I choose it. Now all of my amassed skill points have been spent. I'm somewhat disappointed that I can't start using magic immediately, but still satisfied I was able to take every mana-related skill in the list. Hopefully soon I'll be able to start slinging magic around. Looking at Tiny as he lies sleepily on the floor reminds me of his adult form and the Titan Croc engaging in battle. They were able to channel lightning and spit fireballs, but it didn't seem as if they were using magic in any intellectual way when they did so. Is there another way they were able to gain those abilities? Perhaps during evolution they were able to develop an ability to naturally perform some actions with their MP. It bears thinking about. I may be able to shed more light on that when I evolve again, something I hope will be coming my way when I reach level 10. Now that I have my new skills selected, I want to take some time to get a feel for what they do. The knowledge provided when purchasing a skill gives a sense of how to use it, but that doesn't really compare to consciously utilizing it. First, external mana manipulation. This one is going to be a little tricky. Slowly I focus my mind, abandoning my senses and reaching out with my thoughts. Gradually my consciousness unfolds into the open space, a strange sensation to say the least. I feel light flows of mana around me, slipping through the air like fish in a stream. Different than the concentrated, dense mana in my core, these thin, elusive trails of mana are far more difficult to grasp. After 10 minutes of trying to direct the path of the mana and bend it to my will, I have to give up as my head is aching. That is seriously hard. At this point I'm not even sure what practical use such a skill will have, but since it's there I'm going to attempt to master it. Next is mana sensing. According to my understanding, I need to use my core of focus for this skill. Much like I did when I practiced mana manipulation, I sink my focus deep inside, down inside the spherical gem that is my monster core. Inside, dense mana swirls and billows like hot fog. Rather than focusing on the energy itself, I let my mind expand to fill the space. Then I wait. Gradually, the faintest echoes begin to register on my senses as if a pebble had been thrown in a pool of water I dipped a finger in. Tiny ripples lap against the edges of thoughts. Slowly the ripples grow larger and more pronounced until I can determine a direction, then a sense of distance. I actually think. This is the queen. It's difficult to interpret, but I seem to be registering a strong concentration of mana very close, in the nest, below me somewhere. The only thing I can think of is the queen herself. Phew. This skill is also mentally taxing. I'm flat out drained at this point, my poor ant head is pounding. Still, one more to test. For the final time I focus down on my core and extract the energy, directing it towards my mouth as I've become accustomed to doing. However, this time, instead of releasing it immediately, I bring up more mana, and then more, condensing it, compressing it into a tight ball of furious energy. When I cannot compress the energy any further, I finally allow it to be unleashed from my open mouth. Instead of a small puff of a cloud, the mana explodes from my mouth in a powerful blast of pure force. The energy howls through the air and smashes into the dirt wall with an impressive impact. I'm completely shocked. Was that the legendary shout? Chapter 54. Back to work. I'm quite pleased with the display of mana force. With a blast like that, I might be able to some serious damage. With a few more levels, I might be able to reduce the amount of time required to prepare such an attack to the point it becomes usable in combat. With my mental energy largely exhausted, I decide to take one more nap before diving back into productive society. The shut-in lifestyle isn't for me, and no self-respecting ant could possibly be happy living that way. We are workers. We need to work for the glory of the colony. And in order to level up so I can evolve. Maybe my motives are not as pure as my fellow workers, but my results will be miles better. Let us see how an ant colony can prosper with a human intellect helping them out. Tiny is starting to look a little disgruntled. His tiny bat-like face is a bit sad around the edges, and he keeps looking around for something, getting and more dejected when his search comes up empty. Getting hungry, are you, little guy? One more sleep and then we'll go out hunting, okay? As I settle down to nap, Tiny reluctantly joins me, settling against my back as we snooze. Okay. I shake myself awake abruptly, causing Tiny to jump awake with a small shriek and look around wildly. Nice energy, little fella, we've got a big day in front of us now. The cozy confines of our own room surround us, the bustle of the colony largely outside our awareness here. We can rest peacefully. The soft dirt walls show the scratch or bite mark from when the workers carved out this chamber. I'm still not entirely sure why it was dug at all, considering the fact that the workers very rarely come in here. I'm not too fussed though, since it works out to my advantage. Blinking his eyes sleepily, Tiny climbs up onto my carapace and I rocket out of the room and into the tunnel. Workers are frantically running here and there as always, and when I visit the brood chamber I see a large squad of workers fussing over the new eggs, ensuring they are kept clean and at the optimal temperature at all times. The colony is going to need a heck of a lot of food pretty darn soon in order to raise up this massive generation, and I intend to make it happen. The larger and stronger the colony becomes, the safer and more secure I'll be in this world. Of course, I'll secure my own fair share of experience and biomass whilst I'm at it. Time to get to it. With Tiny holding on, I charge up the tunnel, frequently bumping other workers out of my way. I'm coming through, guys, pick up the pace, we aren't driving Ms. Daisy. The closer I get to the ant hill in the forest, I start to notice a change in the walls of the tunnel. The glowing threads I recall from my time in the earlier tunnels are starting to appear. Then at first but thicker and brighter the close I get to the open space ahead. Are these pulsing lines growing down the tunnel? I'm positive they weren't here just a few days ago. I'm not sure why, but I find it vaguely unsettling to think of these strange, branching vines of glowing light as a growing, living thing. What are they? I mentally shrug my shoulders. I don't have an answer now, and I don't see how I can get one in the future. All I can think of is to keep an eye on the situation and see if I can learn anything as things develop over time. Casting aside my concerns, I focus once again on the mission for today. Securing food for the colony. Emerging out of the tunnel and into the huge open space of the forest feels good. It's nice to be out and doing something again. Holy moly, it is bright. Significantly brighter than before. Not to worry, we have business to attend to. I can see a few workers here and there on the hill, keeping watch probably, or maybe waiting for a scout to return with news of food. Hold tight fellas, I have a feeling you'll be hearing about it soon. Full of confidence I dashed down the hill and under the cover of the trees and towering mushrooms, the multicolored canopy shielding me from above. The undergrowth seems to be more dense than a few days ago, as if feeding on the growing intensity of the illumination in the forest. In fact, as I move between the tree roots and long white stalks, I notice that the entire space seems to have come alive with activity, like a rainforest after a storm. The sounds of monsters surround me, growls, roars and the ripping, tearing percussion of battle. The space has become packed with monsters. When the monsters run into each other, there is only one thing that will occur: a fight. Currently the area around me is filled with such combat, the strong consuming the weak, growing even more powerful from the experience and biomass they harvested as a reward. I don't know why this area has become so populated all of a sudden. Perhaps this is linked to the intensity of the light in the forest. At any rate, this abundance of monsters is suitable for my purposes. If there is experience and biomass to be gained, then the colony and I will get our slice of the pie. I climb a tree, hoping to spy an opportunity from the upper branches. Hauling myself towards the top, I peer through the foliage at the area around me, making full use of my eyesight to scout around. I can see a few mounds or hills that are likely to contain nests, but they aren't exactly what I was hoping to see. Maybe over this side. Aha! A larger tree bursts out of the canopy, standing taller and prouder than those around it. The large branches extend in a wide diameter, providing a tremendous amount of space and shelter within the embrace of those leafy arms. Even from this distance I can spy the small shapes darting here and there high up in the tree. I memorize the location and then descend the tree, making my way back to the ant hill. There are still workers positioned defensively, darting here and there on high alert, ready to pounce on any perceived threat. Good work lads, keep up the good work. After thinking for a moment about how to perform this task, I start to lay down the pheromone trail for food, heading away towards the large tree I'd spotted in the distance. After getting 100 meters from the hill, I return and lay the trail once more, strengthening it. Then I do it again. Laying the same trail multiple times makes it appear more relevant and interesting to the workers, increasing the likelihood they will choose to follow it. Sure enough, my effort is rewarded with a few workers emerging from the nest, and after sniffing around with their antennae they start to follow along my path. Well done my fellow colony buddies, I promise you most likely won't regret this choice. I hurry up towards the large tree I'd seen, remembering to continue to lay my trail as I go. I should give some thought to spending biomass on my pheromones. Now that I'm actually using them to influence the workforce, it strikes me how useful it would be able to send better, stronger signals which would cause the rest of the ants to respond to my actions more quickly. Even now, after laying the trail 3 times, I've only managed to draw a few workers along. If I had upgraded to +3 or +4, then surely I would receive a much more enthusiastic response. It's so hard to decide where to spend biomass in this place. All of the options seem so useful. I move quickly so that I'm able to arrive at my destination well before those following behind me, and it isn't long before that large tree looms out of the woods around me. Just as I'd seen from my scouting position, this impressive specimen is fully occupied by a huge number of those small monkeys I'd seen before, the spark chimps. When they see Tiny and I arrive at the base of their tree, the chimps immediately start howling madly, pointing with their little fingers and screeching at the top of their lungs, causing an impressive cacophony of sound. For his part, Tiny seems completely unimpressed with his ape cousins up the tree. His only response is a low growl in the back of his throat as he watches the tree with hooded eyes. You can really talk the talk, you little apes. Pretty soon we are going to find out if you can walk the walk. Chapter 55 Timber. Looking at the thick trunk of the large tree before me, I flex my mandibles cautiously. Hopefully these infused mandibles are up to the challenge. Ignoring the deafening noise of the little chimps above me, I wander up to the base of the tree. The aggravation of the monsters only becomes more intense as I approach. The small creatures look almost comical with their faces twisted in incandescent rage, completely infuriated that a single enemy would dare approach their territory. Turning my head, I can see 3 workers have followed my trail to the area where I had finished it, about 50 meters away from the tree. Once they arrive there, they muddle about, turning here and there, looking for the location of the food which the trail had indicated to them existed in this place. Not to worry, chaps, I'll be serving it up to you shortly. Infused mandibles. As soon as I activate it with a thought, mana begins to flood out of my core, rushing through my body and into my mandibles. The build of energy becomes more and more intense until I almost wonder if there is anything I can't bite through with all this power. Combined with the strength generated by my active skills, I can pack a tremendous force into every bite. Under the bewildered and disbelieving eyes of an entire tree full of monstrous apes, I rear back my head and then darting forward I unleash the full force of my might upon the tree trunk. Piercing bite. Crunch. The sharp edges of my mandibles sink deep into the strange wood these trees are composed of, sending splinters flying into the air and bouncing off my carapace. After this bite, I don't cut off the flow of mana, letting it continue to pour out of my core and fuse with my jaws, vastly increasing their strength. Again, piercing bite. Crunch. And again. Crunch. My mana is depleting at a furious pace. The power of these mandibles does come at a steep cost. For a monster with a poorly developed core, they would be almost completely useless, but thankfully I've been able to reinforce my core quite a few times, and I'll only continue to improve it further in the future. Crunch. The apes above are completely apoplectic with rage now, almost foaming at the mouth in their anger. I think they may have finally realized what I'm up to. Some of them are starting to descend the tree in order to contest my actions. But it's too late. Crunch. Creak. Oh. Here we go. I secure Tiny on my back and dash away from the tree, moving across the path of descent and turning my head so I can watch the show. The huge tree, with all of its shocked occupants on board, slowly begins to lean over. The apes become completely silent in horror as their world literally starts to fall around them whilst they are still in it. Timber. Crash. With increasing speed, the tree tilts and then falls to the ground with a tremendous boom. The sound of whistling leaves and shattering branches resounds through the forest, followed by the indignant howls of hundreds of tiny apes. The 3 workers stare silently at the bizarre spectacle of a horde of injured apes pouring out of the wreckage of their tree home like angry demons. Possible even to a monster ant, this sight is truly something fresh and original. For the colony. Gleefully I charge forward into the gathering throng of ape monsters, Tiny hooting and roaring on my back like an enraged knight, who is also an ape. The small creatures are scattered by my larger frame, literally bouncing off my diamond carapace when they attempt to strike back. My assault sparks the workers into action. There is a fellow ant in a battle. Fight. Food. 2 of the ants immediately turn and sprint back towards the colony. I'm not shocked by this. They aren't running away in fear or anything like that. These workers know no fear, but are instead going to summon reinforcements from the nest with all the speed they can muster. The final remaining ant immediately leaps into battle alongside me, latching onto the nearest ape with its jaws and engaging in deadly combat. My mission now is to delay and keep this one worker alive until our brethren arrive for the battle. The apes are screeching mad as they rush to slay the would-be attackers, punching and kicking at me, some of them even picking up improvised weapons like branches and rocks to try and increase their damage. Muahahaha. Useless. All of your efforts are for nothing. My newly improved diamond carapace is the perfect defense against these sorts of impacts. My HP isn't even dropping at all. The small monster's physical strength is surely far beneath my toughness to begin with. When the advancement of my carapaces against physical damage is also taken into consideration, then there is very little that these chimps can do to me with their strength alone. I rampage through their ranks joyfully, knocking them aside and sweeping them from before me with large swings of my mandibles. The anger and fury on the monsters' faces only grows more intense as I play with them, and they redouble their efforts, grouping up to leap through the air and bring their fists down on my head with all of the force they can muster. Is that all you've got? It barely tickles. Whenever I see my lone ally starting to get surrounded, I charge towards him, clear away the swarm and draw the aggro back to myself. This is actually a lot of fun. Zap. Ouch. Why, you little. So the little chimps have started to bring out their skills, eh? Turning around, I can see one of the apes drawing his fist back after punching me in the side, electricity still sparking off his arm. You little monsters can use your electric skills, huh? Checking my stats, I can see my HP has dropped by 1. TSK. When I evolved, I was careful to increase my internal resistance as well as my external defense, but against elemental damage like this, my diamond carapace doesn't help at all. Even though I'm able to almost completely resist the attack, it's still enough to break through my defenses and drain my HP. Witnessing the success of this strike, more and more chimps begin channeling electricity into their hands, tiny jolts of electricity sparking off their fur, and the energy builds and builds. I won't let you. I start to rampage through their ranks even more vigorously than before, sending the apes flying before they can fully prepare their strike. Tiny is hooting and hollering from his position on my back, occasionally lashing out with a fist or foot whenever one of the apes gets too close. Despite my best efforts, several more strikes land on my body, discharging their electrical force through my frame, and my HP drops by a few more points. Maybe you chimps are going to get somewhere after all. Kidding. Regeneration. The flood of icy sensation powers through my body, repairing all of the internal damage caused, and brings my HP back to full in a matter of seconds. All of your efforts are for nothing, apes. Checking on Tiny, I can see that he remains completely unaffected by the electricity that is coursing through my body. Since he is actually an evolved version of these smaller chimps, he is no doubt powerfully resistant to electrical damage to start with. I'm not sure if he has even noticed it, to be honest. In the middle of the melee, I turn to check on my ally and notice that more ants have finally joined the battle, and when I look in the direction of the trail, more and more are making their way down and into the fight. Now the real power of the colony will begin to show. Chapter 56: Anthony's Colony Growth Strategy. More and more reinforcements appeared, plunging directly into battle without fanfare. I was once again struck by the coordination and eerie silent aggression of the ants. If a wave of soldiers were to appear, their gallant charge would be accompanied by shouted battle cries, faces adorned with noble expressions of sacrifice, determination, and the thirst for victory. This scene would stir the hearts of all who saw it, bringing tears to the eyes of elf maidens as they hastily composed epic poetry and songs about the dashing heroes who had so boldly, so heroically gone into battle that day, songs that would live on forever. This moving scene would never occur when the colony advanced into battle, however. The workers made no sound, no battle cry, as they advanced on the enemy. As soon as the ants were close enough to detect the battle, they simply ran forward to engage the foe. Their cold eyes showed not a flicker of fear, hesitation, joy, or triumph. To me, this behavior is heroic in another way. The ants are truly selfless, not considering preserving their own health, willing to sacrifice their life at a moment's notice to further the growth of the colony. They needed no high ideals to do this. They were not seeking reward or riches. In the minds of the workers, this was their task, their job, their purpose in life. I appreciate you, workers. Even if nobody else cares, I, Anthony, am deeply moved by your single-minded dedication. Viva the workers! Viva the colony! It is for the sake of these workers and their growth that I have launched this anti-ape crusade. From the time I approached the tree and cut it down to all the time I spent charging through the horde of monsters and knocking them around, I've been careful to injure the apes but never deal the finishing blow. No, I have been saving all of this delicious XP and biomass for the workforce. After evolving and leveling up, I doubt I'd be able to benefit much from these apes anyway. Instead of taking all of the resources for myself, I'll help the colony by creating opportunities for the workforce to develop its strength, absorbing biomass and gaining levels, as well as providing food for the colony to grow the next generation. More and more workers are flooding into the battle. As many as 50 of the monstrous ants have engaged in bitter combat by this time, gradually overwhelming the apes with their vicious mandibles and acid bombardment. The scene has become increasingly chaotic as acid rains from the sky upon ants and apes locked in deadly combat. Everywhere I turn, there are groups of monsters battling to the death, workers darting here and there, using their mandibles to savagely bite down on their enemies even as the apes scratch, punch, and discharge their electricity towards the insects. What a vicious melee! I continue to run interference through the ranks of the enemy, scattering them whenever it seems like a worker will become surrounded or threatened. With all of these factors working together, it isn't long before the entire horde of spark chimps has been defeated, becoming fuel for the powerful engine that is the colony. Feeling tired and satisfied, I survey the battlefield. Workers are picking through the remains of the apes, some of them already eating, others picking up the food and beginning to transport it back to the colony. The workers are smarter than they appear in many areas. They know how much food the colony needs and will be sure that any excess isn't wasted. Particularly since the first creature to eat a food source is the one to gain the biomass from it. Passing on food stored in the social stomach will cause the worker to miss out on nutrition but not biomass. Perhaps this is why the workers transport so much back to the nest. This way the queen and the workers who are almost full-time helping the brood are also able to amass biomass points. Since we have successfully secured more food than the colony realistically needs to keep all of the members going today, the workers will take it all for themselves rather than let any of it go to waste. In this way my goals have been met. I'm sure lots of workers were able to gain levels during this melee. Not to mention the huge amount of biomass consumed will allow many of the ants to mutate and improve the performance of their bodies. This will make the workforce more effective in fighting and growing the colony, which will in turn allow the workers to amass more experience and biomass as they battle, creating a positive feedback loop that I have no intention of slowing down. Oh no, get ready workers. There are no brakes on this train. With all of this food lying about, I make sure to take my own tax, as well as letting Tiny get his fill. My little ape friend is getting larger at an increasingly rapid pace at the moment, almost visibly growing with every passing meal. It won't be long before he doesn't comfortably fit on back and will have to get around on his 2 feet. About time, you slacker. After filling up on the spark chimps, I only managed to gain 3 biomass, a long way from the wealth I accrued from the berserkers. Those points immediately go into regeneration +2 and pheromones +1. The regeneration gland has proven to be incredibly useful already, and I'll stick to my commitment to prioritize its growth. If I'm going to be conducting more battles with the workers like this, then I can see the value in increasing my pheromones, allowing me to direct the flow of the ants faster and with less effort. Since the colony has been provided with ample food for the time being, I'll wait until my next campaign and spend some time working on my magic skills. I really have too much to do at the moment. In addition to fueling the growth of the colony, I want to find more monster cores so I can reinforce myself to the limit before evolution, as well as level up all of my body to +5, get to level 10 and find the space to improve all 3 of my foundation magic skills. Anthony, you are one busy ant. Before I leave the area, I notice that there are a few workers who are being left behind by the others, struggling with injury. Despite my best efforts, I couldn't be everywhere at once. Some of the ants being injured was inevitable. I'm pleased enough that there were no casualties on our side, but it still gets my heart down to see these workers struggling with their wounds. One hatchling in particular has suffered 3 injured legs and cannot walk effectively, feebly dragging itself along the ground towards the colony. Even with half of its legs broken and unusable, this little worker is still carrying an ape in its mouth as it pulls itself through the dirt back to the nest. Now that is some dedication. Moving quickly, I make my way over to the tiny hatchling and gently pick them up in my mandibles. No worries, little chap, this trip is on me. Tiny, completely stuffed by this point, painfully hauls himself onto my back where he flops listlessly. Is this a food coma? Perhaps he went too far this time. With my small passenger in my mandibles, who is turn carrying food in their own mandibles, I make my way back to the nest safely. When I arrive, I head straight down to the queen's chamber, where I find Mother already busy healing a few of the injured workers, tapping them on the head with antennae to pass on the healing energy. Good on you, queen, keeping the workforce going full strength. I deposit my fellow worker before the queen and look up to her, gazing down at me with approval twinkling in her large eyes. Before I leave, she gives me a quick pat on the head with one foreleg and moves to heal the hatchling I delivered. She really is smarter than the workers by quite a bit. Time to go practice some magic. Chapter 57, Practice Makes Perfect. My new mana practice is a little more involved than my old one, since I now have 3 skills to train instead of 1. Mana shaping is fairly straightforward to train. All I have to do is draw the mana out of my core, and then, rather than simply releasing it from my body as I'd done before, I instead hold the mana within myself and then attempt to create the simple symbols and designs that the skill in my mind suggests I need to learn how to create. I can only imagine that combined with other skills, these shapes will enable me to cast spells in some way. External mana manipulation is similarly simple to practice. All I have to do is extend my senses to grasp hold of the mana in the air around me and attempt to shift it around. Sounds simple, right? Unfortunately, the above two exercises are completely mentally exhausting, even more than my original mana manipulation practice. I'm so damn tired. If I have to keep doing this every day for Gandalf knows how long I'll be totally flat mentally before I have a chance to out hunting. I'm starting to reconsider my earlier opinion on having extra brain centers. During my next evolution I might take a look and see if it's possible to attach a subbrain to my core or somewhere else in order to help carry some of this mental burden. I can't help but feel such an addition would make practice far less burdensome and therefore much more efficient. What's an extra brain anyway? I've got 6 legs now where in the past I only had 2 and frankly, I have to say it's an improvement. There's no need to get so fussy about such a small thing as the number of brains one has. Perhaps. After exhausting myself and not receiving any levels for it I drag myself back out of the nest for the next part of my day, Tiny once again hitching a ride on my back. How long is it going to take until he's actually going to be useful? He might be adorable in his mini form but I'd rather he was larger and a bit more capable. He has been growing in size with every meal so far, to be honest he's actually nearly twice as large as he was when he was first formed out of the monster core, consequently he's been able to eat more food and grow even faster. At his current pace I think he'll probably be larger than me after 4 more days. How long it will take for him to reach his original massive size I have no idea. As we make our way up the tunnel to the ant hill in the large open space I can sense some agitation from the few workers ahead of me. Is something going on? When we reach the top of the tunnel and emerge into the open air I take a moment to quickly scan our surroundings. On the edge of the trees not far from the ant hill I can see the source of the workers' unease, 2 massive wolf-like creatures. Their powerful, draconic tails twisting and lashing the air behind them are prowling back and forth, watching the much smaller ants with greed in their eyes. These guys are most certainly the evolved form of the wolf-dragon cubs that I'd encountered long ago in the upper tunnels. Compared to their smaller selves, these guys are easily twice the size, their fangs and claw are much larger, not to mention their most potent weapon, that muscular tail. I well remember the shattering force they can exert when swinging that fearsome thing around. In fact, when I study the 2 beasts more closely I can see the tail of one is significantly larger than the others. It also appears to glimmer in the light as if covered by some kind of metallic sheen above the scales. Could this particular monster have achieved a mutation advancement for its tail? I'll need to be careful. I can't help but wonder why these 2 have appeared here and now. Are they related to the nest of cubs the colony raided a few days ago? Or are they simply eyeing off the tremendous amount of biomass represented by an entire colony of much smaller and weaker creatures like ants? If they try and raid this ant hill they are simply courting death. I'll easily rally the brethren and bring them down. In fact, even as the much larger monsters are eyeing off the colony, I'm busy eyeing them off, greed slowly accumulating in my heart. If I'm able to take down these 2 there might even be a full level in it for me, not to mention the biomass. Between the 2 monsters I could expect 5 or even more point. Enough to possibly mutate my antennae and then perhaps another body part as well. Once the though enters my mind it is proving extremely hard to shake. Get a hold on yourself, Anthony. Don't let greed push you to an unreasonable action. If I were to attempt to fight here there is 0 chance that the colony won't get involved and I don't want any workers to die randomly due to my actions. Does that mean I let these 2 stalkers go? Absolutely not. Are you crazy? Acting casual as I can act when I'm a giant ant monster, I join in a trail of workers drifting into the forest. These guys never stop after all, even if I'm practicing magic or having a nap the workforce is always going to be out scouting and fighting in order to secure food and right now is no different. Once I've followed the trail far enough that the plant life is obscuring me from view I immediately enter shark mode and stealth into the undergrowth, making my way back around until I eventually arrive behind the last position I'd seen the wolves. Sure enough the pair of them are still there on the edge of the tree line, pacing back and forth as they watch the anthill. Going to take a bite out of the colony, eh? What if the colony were to take a bite out of you? Chuckling to myself inside my mind I look around until I can find a nearby tree that I think will give me the view I need. Finding a likely candidate, I climb up and cast my eyes about. Yes, from up here I have a clear view of the two wolf dragons. Not only a clear view, also a clear shot. If these guys want a taste of an ant, I'll first let them sample the products of my commercial plaza. Pow. Chapter 58 Hunger for Wolf Dragon. The acid sizzles as it arcs through the air towards the two prowling wolf dragons. It's unfortunate that they had their backs to me and I wasn't able to aim for their faces. Still, with a satisfying splash, my first salvo hits just above the front left leg of my target. Just after the first shot strike, I launch my second. Pow. Without time to aim carefully, this shot isn't nearly as accurate, catching the second monster on the flank. Both creatures immediately snarl viciously as the acid begins its deadly work, sticking and hardening even as it begins to eat away into their body. I'm very satisfied with the first shot. Catching the wolf dragon just above its leg will hopefully work well to restrict its mobility, something these monsters have in spades. The second is a little unfortunate, but with the time restraints I wasn't prepared to take the risk and potentially miss completely, so I aimed for a much broader area. I don't want to underestimate these creatures. They look powerful and extremely fast. With their long legs and powerfully built bodies, I'm sure they would outpace me on open ground. I'm aiming to use my acid to maximum effect by restraining their speed and getting early damage in before they close with me. Once they recover from their initial shock, the two monsters react quickly, springing apart and running into the woods even as they roar as the acid slowly bites into them. Thankfully, the first target I hit is already showing slightly reduced speed, that one leg not moving as freely as it could. Even as they run, the two monsters are constantly scanning their surroundings with all of their senses. Since these guys are part wolf, I assume they have inherited a powerful sense of smell. I highly doubt they have those large snouts for nothing. Fortunately, my stealth displays its strength at this moment. I remain as still as possible, maximizing the benefit of my skill, and the two large monsters are unable to pinpoint my location, even if they have a good idea where the shots came from based on the impact they experienced. Still as a harmless mouse, I wait, perched amongst the branches towards the top of my tree. As I hide, I watch like a hawk as the two wolves slow down and start prowling. Rumbling growls are emitted by the two monsters as they stalk the area, hunting for my trail. Haha. Exactly as I planned. Now that my enemies have been kind enough to slow down, I once again take careful aim, looking over my shoulder to direct my acid as carefully as possible. Pow. Bullseye. The wolf dragon howls in agony as my acid splatters directly into its face, covering its eyes and nose before sticking and hardening, destroying its senses. Take that, you stupid dog. Swinging its head in frustration, the monster tries to swipe away the acid with its paws, and when that fails, it starts to furiously rub its head into the vegetation and dirt in a frantic effort to remove the hateful stuff. Sorry, wolf, my restrictive acid isn't so easy to get rid of. My last shot has revealed my location at last, and the second hound glares up into the tree, finally locating my form high up in the tree. Hello down there. The wolf bunches its legs underneath itself, preparing to leap, but then it surprises me, lunging forward and swinging its tail with ferocious force. That strange metallic tail crashes into the tree. At the moment of impact, I hear a tremendous crack, and before my boggling eyes, the trunk of the tree directly shatters. Holy moly! Are you serious, Gandalf? He smashed straight through this trunk in one strike. Not that I have time to think about that, I'm falling. From my vantage point high in the tree, I see the tail cleave directly through the trunk, and immediately the tree begins to rapidly collapse to the ground. Before the tree hits the ground, I throw myself clear of my perch, using all of my legs to push off as hard as I can. I can only hope that I manage to propel myself far enough that I make it clear of the crash zone. Poor Tiny is thrown from my back as I hit the ground and roll, yelping in indignation as he smacks into the dirt nearby. Hopefully he'll be okay. I don't have enough time to worry about my small ape companion at the present moment, since I'm terrified a rather large part wolf, part dragon monster may be about to pounce and smash my head in with its bizarrely potent tail. However, when I finally manage to right myself and take in my surroundings, I am once again surprised. Where the hell did these guys come from? Emerging from the forest are the most demonic-looking rabbits I have ever seen or imagined. Bristling black fur, gleaming red eyes, savagely muscled frames, and instead of the usual charming rabbit front teeth, vicious fangs protrude from a hungry maw. What's more, there are dozens of them. Leaping out of the woods, the creatures are slightly smaller than me but still larger than a hatchling worker. Immediately they pounce upon the two wolf dragons, gnawing and biting at the much larger creatures. I even see some jump with their powerful hind legs, turn in the air and deliver powerful kicks to the flanks of the monsters. Hey! Those are mine. It seems the sound of combat has drawn out more monsters from the woods to steal the biomass out from under my very nose. I should probably have expected this. The forest is so packed full of monsters now that fighting almost anywhere is bound to draw more attention. I'm not prepared to give up my hunt to these pesky poaching rabbits. No matter how evil they look. Seeing the small horde-out rabbits swarming over the larger hounds, I know I don't have much time remaining before they manage to overpower the already weakened wolf monsters. I don't have much choice against these sorts of numbers. It's time to summon the colony. Stopping only to pick up Tiny and make sure he is secure on my back, I run back towards the anthill, dropping a food trail the entire way. I don't stop when I reach the nest either. I climb all the way up the anthill and down into the tunnel, dropping the trail the entire way. After running down the tunnel a ways, I turn and run all the way back, laying down a second layer of pheromones to strengthen the scent, further motivating my fellow workers. I'm hoping that by running down into the nest I'll be able to attract more of the workers who are deeper in, amassing a larger force more quickly. I need all of the ants I can get as fast as possible. Bursting out of the top of the hill, I sprint back into the woods, overlaying my own trail all of the way. A few workers have already begun sniffing about, making their way along the path, but I breeze past them, running at full tilt with Tiny hooting in delight on my back. Returning to the scene of the battle, I see chaos before my eyes. The melee has continued in my absence and the two wolf dragons are in bad shape, bleeding heavily from a number of small bite wounds all over their bodies. The rabbits have paid a price though. These wolf dragons are evolved monsters after all, they need to be respected. The broken bodies of several rabbits can be seen on the ground here and there, torn by claw and fang or smashed to pulp by the incredible strength of those tails. I don't have time to hesitate. If I wait, the rabbits might finish of the prey before I get a chance. Charge! I barrel into the fight like a tank, knocking aside the smaller rabbits with my weight and momentum. I throw myself forward towards the most heavily wounded wolf monster. The beast is in a terrible state, my acid having burnt into its face, resulting in it being almost incapable of defending itself against the predations of the nimble rabbits. I'll put you out of your misery. The monster hears me coming and turns to face my onslaught, but there is little it can do. Without slowing down, I hurl myself directly for the monster's throat, latching on with my mandibles. Crushing bite. Chapter 59: The First War of the Hill. I can feel my crushing bite crunch down with sickening force directly on the poor beast's throat, destroying it immediately. You have defeated level 4 Crevet Lupus Draco. You have gained experience. Basic profile of Crevet Lupus Draco unlocked. Crevet Lupus Draco, grown wolf dragon, the evolved form of the cub. This larger, more powerful creature has a greatly increased might, allowing it to strike brutally with its scaled tail. Not enough experience to give me a level up, but the low level of the monster makes me hopeful it might have given up an evolution and condensed a core, not that I have time to extract it right now. As soon as I have dealt the final blow to the wolf dragon, I am immediately set upon by a definitively unfluffy horde of rabbits. I'm not too worried about their assault since I assume that my shiny diamond carapace will repel their efforts. Its incredible hardness is Gandalf guaranteed. I am swiftly disabused of that notion as several rabbits bare their notably long fangs and manage to puncture my shiny hide ever so slightly. What the hell? I'm supposed to be hard as Diamond Gandalf. Is this false advertising? Small stinging pains can be felt wherever the rabbits have bitten me, and I quickly check my status to confirm exactly how much damage I've taken. Phew. Thankfully the damage is minimal, just 4 HP. But I'm still fairly shocked to see that those fangs are able to defeat my sturdy carapace. This isn't good. Those little buggers are going to be able to rip right into the workers when they arrive. My concern is a beat too late, as lots of workers have responded to my pheromone trail, and upon seeing the conflict they immediately throw themselves into battle, rushing forward to latch bite savagely at the first rabbit they see. Damn workers. Can't you hesitate, even for a second? Now I'm terrified that my actions here are going to put a significant number of my colony brethren 6 feet under, Not in a digging sense but in a burial one. Damn it, Anthony. Get in there and help out your people. Ignoring the rabbit monsters who are literally hanging off me, I turn and charge out of the center of the battle, making my way to where the ants have begun to fight. Tiny starts reaching out with his little fists and pounding the rabbits directly in the face with all the strength he can summon. He doesn't seem to be doing much damage, but at least some of the rabbits are irritated enough to let go. Nice assist there, little buddy. When I reach the side of the ants, there is already a steady stream of reinforcements arriving from the hill. Roughly 20 ants are here already, moving towards the nearest enemy and latching on immediately with their mandibles, causing many rabbits to shriek painfully and lash out with their powerful hind legs. I see a few ant hatchlings sent flying before I even get in position to help. I wince when I hear them crash into the ground, one poor sap even colliding with a tree. I hope they are able to last long enough for the queen to heal them. I'll take them myself as soon as I'm able. Once I reach the front line, I start to lash out left and right with my mandibles. Crushing bite. Crushing bite. Two rabbits are immediately heavily wounded when my powerful jaws clamp down on them with vicious force, snapping bones and shredding muscle. I'll leave them to the others to finish off as the fight is quickly escalating. More and more ants are engaging the enemy and the black rabbit monsters are lashing out, causing savage wounds with every bite. With a little breathing space behind me, I turn my head slightly to get a quick look and then blast out another jet of acid, catching an advancing rabbit directly in the chest. Trying to sneak up on me, you little varmint. Let my acid take a bite out of you. My unfortunate victim begins to screech in a high-pitched whine that immediately grates on my ears. I thought rabbits were supposed to be quiet creatures. Apparently they don't like acid, who knew? I swear more rabbits have arrived since this combat began. At first I thought I'd only seen around 12, but there must be at least 20 as I hastily survey the field. The remaining wolf dragon is snarling a constant low rumbling growl as it continues to lash at the monsters around it with tail and fang. Since all of those monsters are demon rabbits, I'll happily leave it to its business and turn my attention back to assisting my fellow ants. More and more small puncture wounds appear in my carapace as I continue to charge through the combat, acting as a living shield to my smaller brethren. I'm starting to hope that these blasted fangs aren't poisoned, or I might really be in trouble. Crushing bite. I managed to latch onto a rabbit right around the neck as it was distracted by other workers gathering around it. The creature struggles desperately, kicking out with its powerful hind legs directly into my thorax beneath my head. The impact of the kick rocks me backwards, but the shock is readily absorbed by my powerful carapace and I manage to maintain my grip. Say good night, bunny of the burning hells. Crunch. My two mandibles meet each other in the middle, having shorn through what had before kept them apart. You have defeated a level 3 dens sanguinem leporus. You have gained experience. Ignoring the fight continuing immediately around me, I take a brief moment to chomp down on the rabbit I just finished off. You have consumed a new source of biomass. Dens sanguinem leporus 1 biomass awarded. Basic profile of Dens sanguinem leporus unlocked. Dens sanguinem leporus, blood-tooth rabbit. This monster is known for its affinity to shadow and the powerful fangs capable of draining health from the victims of its bites. Wait a minute, Gandalf. Like shadows and dark places, long life-draining fangs. Are you telling me these are vampire rabbits? I mean, really? Checking my status, I can see that I have lost over 12 HP so far in this battle, most of it to chip damage from the repeated punctures these damned fanged bunnies have inflicted. Engaging my regeneration gland, I welcome the icy burst that washes through my body, closing over holes in my carapace and restoring my HP to near full. The battle continues to rage around me. More and more ants are arriving at the battle, perhaps as many as 50 now, and the rabbits are finding themselves pressed back as the sheer swarm of the colony is providing more targets than they can comfortably deal with. Haha. You damn demon rabbits of Hades. Behold the power of colony. Turning, I can see 3 hatchlings battling a rabbit together, each of them latched on with mandibles and pulling at the rabbit, pinning it down and restricting its movement. The 3 smaller ants are desperately holding on, their legs splayed and claws dug hard into the ground as the stronger rabbit monster thrashes in a wild attempt to set itself free. I'll help you, young guns. I leap forward and bring my mandibles down on the rabbit in a vicious strike, biting deep into the monster's hide. You have defeated level 2 Bloodtooth Rabbit. You have gained experience. The three hatchlings don't even spare me a glance, let alone a friendly wave of the antennae in thanks before they turn and rush off in search of another target to attack. I shouldn't have expected any different, I suppose. At this moment, as all around me monstrous insects do vicious battle against large black, red-eyed rabbits, I had to think that something was truly odd going on in this world. It is also at this moment that, from the surrounding woods, a veritable flood of centipedes breaks into the battle from the surrounding woods. Chapter 60 The First War. War never changes. What is this madness, Gandalf? Why on earth are these damnable centipedes barging in here? I guess it makes sense when I think about it though. The sounds of monster combat have been ringing through this area of trees for quite a while now, not to mention the powerful smell of the freshest food is permeating the area, filling the air with the rich and delectable scent of biomass. This place is basically the underground monster equivalent of a supermarket, its shelves laden with heaped goods, the most ripe produce delivered direct from the farm, fully organic and ready for consumption. It's hardly surprising that when the forest is, for whatever reason, packed to bursting with monsters, the chaos would attract poachers, frenzied by the very idea of experience and food for the taking. Somewhere nearby there must be a centipede mound, similar to the one I'd preyed upon earlier, because there must be at least 30 of the horrible things here now, slithering and climbing over each other in their desperation to feast. Perfect, just perfect. All I wanted was to snack on some part wolf, part dragon monsters, and here we are in some ridiculous melee. What worries me the most is that this escalation of the battle will only increase the noise and draw even more monsters into the area. The only thing that could possibly make a monster turn a blind eye to this banquet is if a creature with overwhelming strength were to seize control of the field, scaring away competitors with its presence. If that happens, then the colony will miss out on this golden opportunity. This is feast even larger than what we are able to harvest from the spark chimp tree. The sheer wealth of biomass and experience on offer would fuel the workers to hundreds of mutations, possibly even evolutions. The workers would benefit tremendously, growing in strength and sharpening their skills. Not to mention the food would allow the colony to raise hundreds of new ants. Greed is exploding in my heart as I take in the sight of the monsters doing ferocious battle. Every single one of them is a bag of XP and biomass, and I want it all. I want every bit of it. There is nothing as ravenous as a colony of ants. On Earth, regular, tiny ants are so abundant they represent almost 20% of the mass of all animals on the planet. There is no other creature that consumes more of the world's tiny life forms than ants. They are the terrors of the undergrowth, and all things are their food. Here, in this world, we are larger, capable of feasting not only on the smallest of life forms, but on all of them. Every single one of them. I can almost feel a heat rising in my body as I ponder the possibilities. Is there really anything that can match us here in this world? If my colony is able to grow and reach its full potential, is there anything that could resist us? The colony right now is only a few hundred ants, only a single queen. What if there were 5, 6 queens? What if there were hundreds of thousands of workers? Millions. Billions. We could sweep these caverns clean. An unstoppable wave of monsters that would carry all before it. I'm not really a violent person, surely I wasn't in my past life, but now that I'm an ant and the colony has become my home, I want them to survive. Not just survive, but to thrive, to reach their full potential. It could start here, right now. As the centipedes crash into the back of the conflict, sandwiching the unfortunate rabbits between them and the ants, I start to drop the emergency pheromone all around me. Instantly the nearby workers pick up the signal and start to copy me, blanketing the area with the scent. My antennae immediately explode with sensation as the same signal pounds into my senses over and over again. Emergency. Battle. Defend the colony. Summon the workforce. Emergency. The entire area is saturated with the message. I even see workers disengage from the battle to run back to the anthill, spreading the trail all the way back to the top of the hill and down into the tunnels. Every worker will pick up the message, even those tending to the brood and the queen. The queen herself might even appear, much as she did last time. It's definitely a risk if she were to come here. If she were set upon by gargoyles from above or even a giant bruiser like Tiny was or the Titan Croc, I'm not sure if she would be able to survive. I've no idea how capable she is in combat after all. But it's worth it. If we can win here and take all that is on offer here, it will explode the colony's strength and supercharge its growth. We need to roll the dice. Invigorated by the incredible opportunity that has dropped itself into my lap, I return to battle with renewed purpose. The ants on the fringes of the fight have begun to unload their acid bombardment over our heads, targeting the newly arrived centipedes on the other side of the fight. Blast after blast of sizzling acid streaks through the air, falling like rain on the centipede horde. The rabbits are in a frenzy, pinned between two hostile monstrous swarms. They have no option except to fight their way to survival, and they battle with renewed ferocity, biting savagely at ant and centipede alike. In the midst of the fray, the remaining wolf dragon continues its rampage, completely surrounded by smaller monsters that bite and pull at it, trying to drag it to the ground. The larger beast responds with vicious swings of its tail, sending the unevolved monsters flying through the air with every swat of its tail. I charge back into the swirling midst of the battle, ants climbing over each other and on my back at the front line constantly bite, pulling at the rabbits and dragging them down. I lash out to my left and right every time I see a target, using my crushing bite exclusively. Since these rabbit monsters have no hard external defense, the crushing bite is definitely the skill that will yield me the most damage per bite. Every time my mandibles clamp down, biting deep into soft flesh, the rabbits howl and screech, but their pleas fall on deaf ears as the unstoppable tide of ants continues to push forward. Every now and again the XP notification comes through, the gruff yet soothing voice of Gandalf letting me know that one of victims was finished off by my strike. As I continue to press forward and bite, I can gradually feel my stamina being drained away, making me more and more tired. Ever since I first saw my mandibles glowing with power, I wondered where that energy came from, if there was some sort of cost associated with my active skills. It seems I was correct to think so, but only now, biting dozens of times in such short succession, have I been able to directly feel the energy draining out of me. It's my stamina. With every snap of my mandibles, I can feel myself getting more and more tired. But I won't stop. Until all of this biomass has been claimed for the colony, I refuse to stop. Crushing Bite has reached level 6. Crushing Bite has reached level 7. Damn it. Just how many of these stupid things are there? The rabbits have been defeated. Their beady red eyes are all lifeless on the ground as the centipede and ant armies continue to clash over the top of their remains. At the rear of the battle, ants are extracting wounded and dragging them back to a temporary holding pile at the base of the hill, waiting for transport down to the Queen. Some of the wounded are so desperate to fight they try to drag themselves back to the front with whatever limbs they have left. One nearly legless hatchling I saw trying to pull itself back to the battle using only its mandibles. The emergency pheromones have summoned almost all of the workforce to the fight. Over 100 monstrous ants have answered the call, emerging from deep in the nest to do battle in the name of the colony. Every time fresh recruits arrive at the scene, they immediately unload all of their available acid onto the enemy before they advance to the front lines. Due to their assistance, we now outnumber the centipedes significantly, almost 2 to 1. The fighting is so hot and close that the centipedes are struggling to utilize their most deadly weapon, their poison sting. With the two sides pressed so close together, climbing over each other to fight, it's too hard for them to raise their tail section high enough to strike forward, giving the ants yet another advantage. We can win.